This is a recording for the Brown Homestead Oral History Project on Thursday, November 7th, 2024, recording at the Brown Homestead located in St. Catharines, Ontario. The interview was conducted by Sarah Nixon, Community Engagement Manager of the Brown Homestead, along with Brock University student Owen Earhart and Jessica Linzel, Community Engagement Director at the Brown Homestead. And I'd like to just start with name and date of birth. So Ethel, we'll start with you.
Ethel Amelia Florence Powers Simpson, born 1942, April the 7th. Did you want the names of my parents and stuff? It had that.
Well, no, we just want to know who you are.
Well, that's me.
Yeah,
That's you.
We'll ask that in a bit. And what about you, Wendy? Tell us about your name, date, and place of birth.
Wendy Ann Douthwaite Jessam, which is, I am Ethel's niece, so my mother was Martha Powers.
Okay.
Yes. Born 1958, November the 11th, and I spent my first 4 years here before our house was built.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
November 11th, so your birthday's coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
All right. Ethel, tell us then about your parents.
My father, Charles Powers, he bought the farm from my grandfather, 1932. He worked at the Hooker chemical plant in Niagara Falls, New York, and he got cancer, breast cancer there. They operated, and my grandfather said to him, "Move to the farm, get out of there." So he did, and Dad and Mom, Ada Jewess Powers, they had Bud already. He was born in 1927.
Was it?
Yeah, and
Okay.
they lived in Niagara Falls, and then when they came up, they moved to the farm. So that's when Mom had all the rest of the kids.
Yeah, there's a big age gap between
Yeah,
them.
there was 8 years difference
Yeah.
between Bud and Marianne.
And we've always-
between Marianne and me, there's 8 years.
Yeah.
So-
But we always believed because my grandfather was working at a chemical company, that's why my grandmother couldn't get pregnant again. But once they moved out,
Wow.
it was like bing, and then another 2 years, and another 2 years. So there was a big age gap between my Aunt Marianne and my Uncle
8
Bud.
years.
Yeah. So
8
that's
years,
a big
8 years.
difference at that time, like back in those days, because most people were having, kids year after year after year, or a 2-year gap. So that's what we believe. That was the reason why they really didn't start having the rest of the family until they moved here to the farm.
Yeah, but they
Yeah.
wanted to have the farm anyway.
Yeah.
Being in Niagara Falls, Dad, I don't think Dad really wanted to have a family as he
No,
was
I don't think so
commuting
either.
back and
No.
forth. So when they got to the farm, they relaxed.
Yeah.
Very much so. But
Do you know how your parents met?
no, I don't. I really don't. Dad was never very talkative, and Mom passed when I was 5, 6. So I, don't remember that part. They never. I mean, maybe I talked to Marianne yesterday, and she's 91, and she don't remember too much either. So she was not too much of a help, but. No, I do not remember how they met. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't even know where Mom lived
Jewess?
Yeah, Jewess, and the Trambeth name was
Yeah.
on there, on her side. So, and Dad, with his, he was Empire Loyalist stock. They had, that's where they came from. And they settled in Kingston, around Kingston area, and then the another split. They went to Manitoba, and then Grandpa moved down to this area and bought the farm.
Okay.
In 1901. And I don't know how old Grandpa was when he did buy the farm. I had, you know.
Yeah.
But,
And you know what? I was at their gravesite and they should have put down the year he was born and passed.
Yeah.
But that was like 3 months ago and I didn't even think about it before that.
Oh, so his gravestone doesn't have his...
Oh, it does, but I just went to see my grandfather's because I thought, oh, it's been like forever. Because I mean,
Well,
yeah,
the
grandpa.
big one with Powers.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
That's when I looked. I went, wow. Yeah.
There was a...
So the Powers family was a United Empire Loyalist family. They settled near Kingston, and then at some point, some of that family moved to Manitoba. But your grandfather, they split.
Like when they were left Pennsylvania, wherever they were, I don't know if they were in Virginia. I don't know where they were, but when they came up to Canada, some went to Manitoba and the other ones went to Kingston. And then Grandpa comes down to this area.
And your grandfather was LaFontaine.
Yeah, LaFontaine. LaFontaine.
Do you remember much of your grandfather? Was he alive when you were born?
I remember he was a grumpy old man.
You know, that's one thing I never asked you.
I was just a little wee kid.
Around?
I was a little kid and he was grumpy.
Was he?
Yeah.
But where did he live? Did he live here in the house still, or?
Yeah, he.
Oh, okay.
Until Dad bought the place, but
Yeah.
he did. I've got a picture of the home that he lived in St. Catharines.
Oh, okay.
He moved to St. Catharines when Dad got the farm, and that.
But when he came to visit, that's when you realized he was a grumpy old man.
Yeah, we took. Dad took us to visit him once in a while.
Oh, really? So he never came back out to the farm that much?
No,
or no.
no. After he left, when Dad took over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So you have no idea what great-grandfather would have done here on the farm?
No.
Yeah. That's too bad.
Well,
Yeah.
it wasn't like when Grandpa LaFontaine bought the farm. It was owned by those people. What was their name?
Toulouse.
Chew. And I
What is
had,
it?
It's Toulouse.
I call them Chewies.
Chalou.
Anyway, I have no idea like what industry, or like what they did. Did they have cattle? Did they do the fruit farms? When was the big barn built?
Yeah, that's what I always wanted to know.
I thought that I was told by Mary Ann, I think, but she wouldn't know for sure. But it was built in 1880s, something like that, or before that.
This is the
But we
barn?
don't know.
Yeah.
The huge barn, the big barn, and then there were implement sheds out in the back and that.
So your sister has said that the barn was built around 1880s along with outbuildings, but you're not quite sure where those dates came from.
No, neither was she.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's when the Browns still had the home, like originally, is it not? Because we're not really sure when that barn was built.
Yeah, from what we understand, we know that the Brown family would have settled here around the 1780s, and they started to build, the house by 1802, and it makes sense that a barn would have come shortly after that.
Yes.
But see, we don't know.
But we don't know. The barn isn't standing, so it's hard for us to... But again, knowing the trends of other Loyalist families in the area, they would have built a barn for their animals.
Yes,
they were
exactly.
grain farmers, so they would have needed a place for their implements. So it could have been as early as the early 1800s.
I don't think...
Yeah, is it the same barn that was around when you were here? It's hard to tell. We do know that a lot of family farmers, they weren't in the business of tearing down things to rebuild things.
No.
So they might have added on to the Brown family barn. Mm-hmm. So these are questions that we have too.
I don't think so. I think like with the barn, it was built substantially as what it was. Mm-hmm. And we had the cattle in there and the haymow. And the foundation. Now I'm trying to think about the foundation. Was it similar to the foundation of this farm? if it was, then it was built in the
Yes, because it
1830s
was
or
all
something like that.
fieldstone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I remember where the barn was, and then just as you go out of the barn, there was another structure there, and it's no longer standing. But I remember not as a full building, but kind of like rubble. It was falling apart basically. So I think at that time there was also another building out there.
Well, we had the two.
Yeah, because I have
influences.
some of the stones.
Yeah, we had two.
You have some of
influences.
the stones.
Yeah,
Oh, you've kept them.
yeah. Oh, years ago, like when my grandfather was still alive.
Do they look?
I just thought they've got a red clay into the mix of the stone itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they look different from the stone of the house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I asked if you look at our neighbors, the current neighbors, their garage has a red sandstone base, like
Mhm.
a foundation. So we
Ooh.
think it might be part of the foundation of the barn. So knowing that you have some of the rubble makes us think that that was
Yeah.
correct.
Because it's a fairly good sized rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always thought, one day maybe I'll paint a picture of the farm on it. Yeah, that hasn't happened yet, but
There's still time. There's
oh
still
yeah,
time.
get a photograph and put it on there.
Yeah.
I do have some more questions about kind of establishing the family unit that was here. So Ethel, you spoke of your parents. You spoke of your about your grandfather. What about your grandmother? Was she alive when you were born? Do you have any memories or stories of your grandmother?
Not really. I think that's why my grandfather was grumpy. I don't know when she passed, and I have no recollection at all of her.
I will look at that
Because I was
at
born in
Victoria
Fort-
Farm,
yeah, I
at
was
Victoria
born-
Lawns. I'll go back and I'll go to the cemetery and get all the dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't-
Just
yeah, she
curious.
should be interned there. Not.
She is. He's here. She's beside him, and Grandpa's at the bottom, and so is Grandma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mom.
Okay.
Yeah, but her, no, I never. Did I say, like with the family unit, me being the last one born, I was, I was last born, and I never, you didn't, at that time, I had no interest, shall we say, of lineage or anything like that, so.
Well,
what
it's the
was
same
passed
as
down was passed down.
when, like my grandmother, who of course I never met, like Ethel's mom, when she passed, that's a whole family of children, really. And I didn't realize this until Ethel told me. I said, so why did Aunt Florence, my aunt, I should say our, I always say mine, it's all mine. Our Aunt Florence was my grandmother's sister. So Florence and Ada, Jewess, were sisters. And when Ada passed, my Aunt Florence came into the house and took care of the kids. And I'd always asked Ethel, why did she come and do that? And she said, what's your answer? Why did Aunt Florence come here?
Because the children's aid was going to take us kids
Away.
They were going to split us up.
And I didn't even think of that. And I thought, oh yeah, that would make sense.
There was, there was 5 of us, and
Yeah.
they, and I was 5, 6 years old, and they came right into the home and said they were taking the kids.
Oh wow.
So Dad got in touch with
Our Aunt Florence, and yeah.
Auntie Florence, and she came, and she was she was more my mother than.
Yeah, she was like a grandmother to us.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she was excellent. Man, she could cook.
And bake. Oh yeah.
When you ask how are your meals, excellent.
So excellent, yes.
Yeah, and she was a pastry chef too.
Wow.
Yeah.
At Richardson's Bakery, she was the top chef.
Where was Richardson's Bakery?
Merton.
Meriton.
Yep, right on Glendale. Right on then.
Yeah, when you
right.
get to Glendale and then it splits into like Thorold
Okay.
in that kind of corner area. Yeah.
That was Richardson's Bakery. And believe it or not, as she was being a pastry chef there, my husband worked there. he was 14, 15 years old.
Did
And
you know each other at
No,
No.
not a.
That's, you know what, this
not
story is
even a
just
shot,
kind of like,
not even a shot.
I'm going, oh my
and
goodness.
he had to work at night and do the cleaning up of the stoves and stuff and the oil and goods that. And she would leave him Dundee's.
Which is a nice sweet, like it's a great pastry.
Oh yeah, but see, he lived in Meriden, and that's where he worked before he went to school. He would go there, and Aunt Florence was top chef.
Yeah.
So
But she was making goodies for him, and I thought, that's so wild.
Yeah.
And then they end up meeting and getting married. Yeah.
What an amazing story.
isn't that wild? I just okay.
So, so you're
Can you make Dundee's? I said no.
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 We leave that for Aunt Florence.
You didn't have to learn how to make them. Aunt Florence made
Yes.
them. So tell me more about Aunt Florence. So she came and she essentially, I guess, helped raise you.
Yeah, she did. That's what she,
Okay.
But her last name was Florence Howard.
Howard.
She had been married, and her husband was a bit abusive, and she got out of that marriage, and she never had any children.
So she came and took care of all of you guys.
Did she ever get what she
Yeah.
asked for?
But she was also good, so very patient.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Yeah.
What an amazing woman.
Yeah.
She was. She worked her little fingers right to the bone.
Yeah. And my grandfather really appreciated
Because out
her.
in the back kitchen there, that's where she would do the laundry. And the wash machine with the rollers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we refer to now as the summer kitchen, we
Yes.
refer to as the back kitchen,
Yeah.
and there was laundry there.
Well, it was just the old
Ringer style.
ringer
Old
style.
men.
Yeah.
And she would do the laundry in there.
Wow.
And it would hang up on the line.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so she would do the laundry back there and then take it outside and hang it up on a line.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can't remember where the line was. I know we had poles holding the line up.
Yes.
every time.
Yes.
But,
I do remember that.
Somewhere in,
Yeah.
in the back of the house, there
Yeah.
would have been a line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And believe it or not, Dad would help her put the clothes on the line.
Well, because she was so small and Grandpa was so tall. I mean, our grandfather was what? He had to be at, what, 6?
Yeah.
6 foot.
Yeah.
We always wonder where we all short people come from. But Uncle Bill was tall.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
about 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah. So he took after the heights on the power side.
Bud didn't.
No.
Bud was short.
Shorter.
Shorter.
Yeah. But I mean, I'd say what?
Yeah.
5'9",
Yeah.
but still taller than, most of us.
So tell me a little bit more about your siblings. You were the youngest of 6 children.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So tell me about your siblings. You mentioned a bit that Bud was born first. There was a bit of a gap, and then so just tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah. Mary Ann. Okay, wait a minute. Took care of us. Mary Ann was the oldest. She was 9 years older than me. And then there was Jean. Of course, she did the household chores. Jean. She did not do chores out. She didn't do.
She didn't milk cows or anything like that. No.
Mary Ann was. Mary Ann and Dad did most of the outdoor with the cattle and stuff, and Martha was a little bit of a help, and Bill and I just kept getting underfoot. Like we were not much help.
Well, probably because
I
you were younger,
did
that's
though.
why.
When I was 7 years old, I milked 5 cows by myself. My dad had to come in and clean them out, but I did it only once. But that was my chore. I milked 1 cow a day until we got rid of them. And Mary Ann did most of the work, and Bill helped a bit because he was, he'd help with the haying And the haying was a different story altogether because that was loose hay.
Yeah, they didn't have bales.
No, they certainly didn't have bales or
No.
round bales or anything. It was loose hay. And it went up onto the wagon, and then you back the wagon up to the barn, and it had a pulley. You stuck the thing into it, clicked it, and it would take the hay up and then take it and drop it. And as it was dropped up in the haymow, there was huge beams across the top, and it could go. So what we would do is, because the hay's over top these big beams, underneath the beams was a little spot, a little opening that you could go
Like a
in
little
and-
fort.
Yes.
We did the
that's-
same thing.
And that's what we would do. We would play in the haymow for all the, where are the kids? Out in the haymow. Find them. Which beam are they under?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, because the barn was still standing when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you would play in the hay mounds under
And swing on the rope.
Oh, yeah. That was a blast. Yeah.
So the barn became your playground.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
Besides many, like, outside as well. But, yeah, the haymow was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we had the horses, of course, horses for courses. And we did a lot of riding. But Martha and Mary Ann were the main rides. They went down into the short hills. But we walked a tremendous amount down in the short hills.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And so tell me about that. So you would take the horses into the short hills. The short hills were kind of was it your property? Like, were you just able to wander through? Like, how did that work?
To the one port, I don't know, have you been down through?
I've taken some trails through the short hills, yes.
Yeah. Okay, where the top, that was ours till, I don't know if you, the last Crick Bridge, and then that was
Yeah.
Harold Wilson's, and he had beef cattle. I don't know if you knew there was a huge farm down there,
Okay.
and that was his farm. So we owned that part, and that went to the Boy Scout camp,
Mm-hmm.
and then went to the road, and that portion was ours. Well, when we went down with the horses, then we would just kind of go over to St. John's and, ride all over the place. There was no real fencing if we went down to one area. But, no, it was quite the, and then when we were walking, we didn't have to. And also, there's quicksand down there,
Quicksand?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. One spot is just by the Boy Scout camp, and the other spot is on the other side of the road, Roland's place. And years ago, way before, when was it? Dad had the farm. There was a migrant from Toronto, and he disappeared. And at night, in the middle of the night, there would be knocking on the door. And get up, nobody was there. And that would go on for, not every night, but every once in a while, knocking on the door. And then I couldn't figure out what the heck. And in the interim, when they had gone down they found his body. He got stuck in the quicksand.
Oh my God.
And he couldn't, I guess he was, tired. And I don't know how he got from Toronto. We have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But they found his body down there.
Oh.
And after that, we never heard no more knocking.
Once they found the body?
Yeah, once they found the body, there was no more knocking on the door.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
that was our spook time.
that was your spooky story.
Yeah.
So when you say migrant, do you mean a migrant farm worker or an immigrant from Toronto?
I don't know if it was an immigrant or not.
Okay.
I have no idea who.
He just was.
Yeah.
He just meant he came from Toronto.
Yeah.
Somehow found his way
Yeah.
to Short Hills.
Somehow he got, and how he did that, we don't know. We haven't got a clue because you couldn't ask him.
Yeah. Someone just found his body in the quicksand.
Yeah.
Oh,
He got stuck
awful way
in
to
there.
die.
Yeah.
And but the knocking stopped after you found the body.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my daughter was on a competitive horse competition, and he ran away with her, and he landed in the quicksand.
The horse.
Yes.
Oh.
And Debbie got out. She crawled, and it was icky.
Of course, it would have to be
Had
empty.
to be icky.
Yeah.
And he was stuck. So luckily, like it was quite well. It was a competition, right? So they lassoed him and yanked him out of the quicksand, and that was the quicksand that the guy had been stuck in. So it was quicksand.
So when you were, playing down there as a child with the horses, you knew to avoid
Oh,
the
big
quicksand.
time.
Yeah.
There were trails
Okay.
because Roland had cattle too, and his cattle was down on that side, and they had trails that went through the quicksand.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was kind of neat, but it was weird.
I find the Short Hills filled with so many surprises.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So totally different now than what it was even when I grew up, and that's what I mean. It's just like I look across and going, wow, we tobogganed down that hill. I'm going, now it's just trees. People would say, really? And I'm going, yeah.
Bob used to ski down there. He didn't know how to stop.
Oh, really?
So he just book.
Well, it's a nice sized hill. I mean, if the trees were not in there, you could see the size of the hill.
Right.
And it was a great tobogganing hill, except for the one side, nobody tobogganed. We had a few people that decided that they would try it, and they ended up with broken legs, broken arms, and it's like, no, you go straight. You don't go down that way.
Ah.
Or else you end up in the creek and they're up by the road. Remember that was.
Well, we did
Well,
that.
that's what happened with Dad, with the horses. Before tractors, Dad had the two horses. What the heck was the horse's name? Min or something like that, and that was his favorite. She was reliable. The other was unreliable. And they were on top of the hill, haying, and he had unfortunately gone over the side, and the horse bolted. The other one didn't, but the one bolted, and of course the wagon went over sideways and landed on his ankle. And that's how he broke his ankle.
Yeah.
Remember, he walked with his...
Yeah, his leg crooked,
Yeah. And then, that boy, my father really loved horses, because, no, I think it was with the horses. They were, what they did was, it was a pulley that lifted the hay up and dropped the hay off, right? So the pulley was down here. Well, Dad was fiddling around with it somehow, and he lost his finger.
Yeah.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so
Farm life isn't fun, you know.
So
Be careful.
he got rid of the horses at that point. But
I guess so.
it was.
Well, yeah, because I mean, they never had heavy machinery, so of course you're relying on livestock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he could.
Okay, I'd like to put a pin in the horses and the machinery and just go back to the Short Hills for a moment. I'm curious, both you, Wendy and Ethel, have said about playing down there. So it was open pasture.
Yeah.
And your cattle as well as the neighboring farms' cattle were grazing down there.
Yeah. The Rolands were on this side of the road, and we were on that side of the road.
Of Pelham Road. So Pelham
Not
Road.
Pelham Road.
Not
No,
Pelham
this.
The Short Hills.
The Short Hills.
The road
into-
itself?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. The
I
Short
see.
Hills Road.
Yes.
That was Roland's. This was ours.
Okay,
Or
so
Dad's.
okay, so the side closest to the house, that was your
Yeah.
land.
Yeah.
The side of the road on the other side
Was Roland.
was
Yeah.
Roland, and they
Mhm.
both had cattle,
Yeah.
and so it was opened, which means you were able to see the hills and go
Oh
kind
gosh.
of
Yeah.
around.
Oh yeah. Nothing. There was. We had.
Because cattle keeps it flat.
Yeah, but there
Cattle
wasn't.
keeps it flat.
Yeah.
But we had an orchard out here.
You had an orchard.
There was an orchard out there.
That was closer to the road, or
Yeah, it was how could I explain it? How far did they go down? Not that far, but there was an apple orchard, pear orchard, from the scout camp road to that road,
Mhm.
and it only went not even, I don't know, till the gate where the hills are.
Yeah.
And that was an orchard, as I say. And what's it doing now? I guess somebody went in there. See, Wilson bought all that. He bought all the property, and my sister and her husband built a house over there.
Okay.
And
Across the road.
Yeah. Don't
Okay.
ask me what year it was. I guess the girls would know what year.
Yes, because it's after they were married.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. And Dad was didn't even sever the acre. He just gave them the acre, and they built a house, and they just started living in it. And Harold Wilson wanted to buy the whole thing, and he said he was not going to buy it unless that house was moved out of there. So they built the house. They had to tear the house down, and then they went up Pelham, North Pelham.
So they didn't get to live in their home
No.
for long. Oh.
No.
No, but Harold said no. He says he wanted all that.
Yeah, he
property.
wanted all the property, not just a bit here and a bit there.
Well, it was only just
He
that
had
one
his
bit.
property, but he wanted everything across.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he wanted it all. So
And so do you know what year that would have been?
I wonder if the girls would know.
I'm trying to think. Jim, or my
Jim
cousin.
was Jim was born by that time.
Okay,
So when
if Jim was born by that time,
so he'd
I'm
be
60, let's say 66, might as well.
He's
60.
70. So okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite 70, but it could be close to 70, either 69 or 70. That's one of my oldest cousins. So
And he was born.
it
at
would
that
be
time.
over 70 years ago,
'Cause he
about
was,
70 years ago.
Yeah.
because he was born in that house.
Well, not born in the house, but he was born at that time when they still had that house.
I understand.
So it's kind of like they're building. So, say 70 years ago, that's when they were building the house.
Okay,
Yeah,
I see.
because
And
Jim
I
would
don't-
have been. Pardon
yeah,
me.
And I don't even think they had it for.
They
not
didn't
even-
have that long.
No,
No.
no, that was
No.
wild. But
So, Wendy, do you remember there being orchards back then?
No,
No.
Not at
They
my
were-
time,
They were
no.
gone by the time you
yeah,
were
it was
born.
just pretty well flat ground.
Okay.
Now,
You know, we're all looking out the window to see the.
now there's lots of trees. The trees weren't there. Let's just
you don't
say that.
remember the orchard over there? We had
Oh.
we even put the horses out there.
I can't remember.
We put the horses out there.
I could have been very little.
Well, whatever. But we had a paddock or like a thing for the horses.
Oh, I remember
out
the
there.
paddock out by the
Yeah,
barn.
and then they had the other one out here.
Yeah, I remember the apple orchard out the back
Yeah,
past the pond.
and then the pear orchard.
And I remember the pears, I remember the plums, grapes, yes. But the farm, I remember when the farm was fenced in, and that's when they had horses.
Okay.
And I got kicked in the back, and I think I was like 4. Yeah, so I didn't like horses too much. It's like, yeah, that's nice. No, they don't like me. But yeah, if I look at that picture, it is fenced in or not?
It looks like there is a fence on this painting from 1956.
Okay, now the picture of the ones that are from around Thanksgiving,
Okay.
or not Thanksgiving, but the ones where they're aerial shots taken from the top of the farmhouse here.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what year that was?
I believe that was 1954.
So
Yeah,
it's
there's a
just
date on 'em.
before.
There's a
Is
date.
Is there a date on it?
Is it-
Yeah.
Okay, because it's just opened. There is no fencing or anything around that barn. And that's why I wondered. I thought, so when was that? When I seen the picture, I went, okay, I know that's the barn. I know from the farmhouse to look out the window, that's where the barn was. But the barn always had, when I was growing up, it was already fenced. So that's why I wasn't sure what year it was. If that's 56,
Yes.
I was born in 58, so that fence was up. But the pictures from whenever that was, There was no fencing yet.
Okay, so that was new fencing.
Yes, so this was
Okay.
basically new fencing. Probably because the cattle were in there. But,
Keep the cattle in.
yeah,
Makes sense.
that would make sense, yeah.
Well, I cannot remember specifically when Dad got rid of the cattle. And,
There was a few cattle when I was little. Not,
Yeah.
but not like a milking farm or anything.
oh, no, because the bulk cooler came in and Dad figured, no, can't afford it.
Yeah,
So then we got rid of the milking cows and went right into the grapes. And we still had the orchard, you know,
Mhm.
the apples and pears, and we had to take them up to the train station. And
Yeah, where they
pick
have the
them
drop
up.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a couple questions. We'll move forward to talk a little bit about the farm here then. So I have a few questions about what you were doing with the cattle when you decided to move over to the fruit farm, and then I can ask a few more questions about that.
Let's see, I don't remember when Dad got really rid of the cattle. I don't, as I say, with the bulk cooler, when the bulk cooler came in, we before that we had the milk in the cans, right, the big cans.
yeah, the milking cans.
Yeah, and then the bulk
Stainless steel cans, you know those
Yes.
kinds? Yeah.
Yes.
I can't even, like as I say, I don't even remember how old I was when we, because I had to been over 7 or 8 because I was still milking a cow.
Yes.
Well, I
At
don't think
least
you could
once
do it as a 2-year-old. I'm sure they would.
No, I never did it as a 2.
No, that's what I mean. You'd
Um,
have to be a
So
little.
42, I was born in 42, so if I was 7, be 40, well, around 49, we still had, there's pictures of them, and, but then after that, it was just strictly grapes that got right out of the cattle.
Okay, so it was too expensive to have the cattle, or it
Well,
wasn't
they-
a big money maker.
Well,
No,
they
that's
wanted
what
the
you meant,
bulk,
like,
they
when
wanted the
they-
bulk cooler.
Yeah, what they call is like, at one time you could store the milk in milk cans, like the huge milk cans.
Okay,
Well,
so-
now there came a point where the government basically said, no, they have to be stored in the big,
I
huge.
see.
Yeah,
And
bulk cooler.
that's why, yeah.
So
What do you
rather
call
than-
it? Bulk what?
Bulk cooler, a bulk cooler.
Bulk
A
cooler.
bulk
Yeah.
cooler.
So
So rather than investing in a bulk
Cooler.
Yeah, Dad
it's
said
called,
no.
you know what, let's get rid of the cows. But he did have a couple cows. I remember there was cow when,
Yeah, he
I
had a
was-
few, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, he kept.
more
But-
just for family subsistence.
Perfect,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Okay, so do you remember where the milk would have been stored? Because I know we refer to the brick, one of the brick outbuildings out there as the dairy.
Yes.
Was that used for any of the cattle farming? or
Not that I
milking?
know of, because with the farm, with the barn, cattle here, okay, we had what they would call a cooling room for the milk, and it was put in the big cans. Well, it was like almost like a bathtub type thing, but it was complete brick, and it was about the size of one of these.
One of these
And it was-
tables, so like
yeah.
3 feet maybe?
Yeah, and it was full of water, and it was from the well. Now, there's a well out there that used to be by the barn, and it was over 30 feet deep.
So there's a lot of water. Well, that's
Yeah.
what we said. We know that there is
But
a natural water supply underneath.
yeah, but
That's why- Go ahead.
anyway, they got the water from there, and it was cold.
Yes, ice cold.
So the ice cold water was in this, and we put the milk tubs in, and that's how the milk stayed cool.
Cold, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in the morning, you take them out and put them on the side, and then truck come along, or
Okay.
whatever came along and
picked up the milk.
yeah.
Okay, so you would put it on the side of the
Yeah.
road somewhere, and then a milk truck would come pick it
Yeah.
up, and then from there it was distributed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't know where it was. I mean, I wouldn't know. Dad might, but I certainly didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I remember, like, we'd had to put them out, and then they would take them, and then we get. I don't know how the heck we got them back. I don't know if it was just a turn around. Like,
Oh, for the milk?
Yeah.
Like the
yeah. The
stainless steel canisters.
Can. Yeah.
The milk cans.
The milk cans.
Yeah.
They weren't stainless steel.
When we
These
say
ones-
cans, we're not thinking, it's not small, it's big.
It's
It's
those
like,
big ones.
yeah, the big huge ones. Yeah.
Well, they were about this high. About
Yeah.
That big around. I could lift them up. So they
Empty?
Can be, yeah.
With milk in them?
No.
I was just going to say empty. I could see that, Ethel, but I can't see.
I work at it, but I couldn't get it out of the water.
Yeah.
And then sometime after 1949 at least, then your father decided to move into more fruit farming.
Yeah.
So what do you remember about that? What were you growing? Where was it growing? Any
Well, just
memories?
grapes, Concord and Niagara was our, and then what was that name of that grape? I've got them planted at my house, for heaven's sakes, and I can't remember the name of them.
Did he not have a white grape?
Niagara's.
Niagara's,
Oh,
okay.
they were so good.
Oh, yeah. He made great wine.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I remember being old enough to have a glass of wine. It's like, oh.
Boy,
So you would
Dad.
make your own wine here too?
Oh, my grandfather did, yes.
Grandfather.
Oh, Dad made fantastic
Oh, yeah, his wine was-
Oh, yeah.
It was a red wine.
Yeah, Bill
Unbelievable.
Holder and I found that out.
Mm-hmm. We got the stash, we knew.
Jean came down in the basement, and boy, was she hopping. Bill and I were
Bombed?
Oh.
Now, see, we
were
lost
cleaning
it.
out the house is what we were doing.
We lost our Aunt Jean in
February.
February of this year.
Oh.
And she had a lot of, she knew a lot about the farmhouse as far as like family names and stuff like that. It's,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
too bad. Like Aunt Jean, there's a picture of her when the Browns had the first open doors.
Okay.
We came as a family, my Aunt Mary Ann, Ethel, Aunt Jean, and myself. So it was quite nice, but it's too bad my Aunt Jean wasn't alive today because she would have been able to, like names like aunts and uncles and stuff like that, I'd be like, oh, yeah, for some reason she always had that kind of knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she was stayed in the house more or less. She was
Yeah,
the house mouse.
the house mouse. Yeah.
But you said that your aunt or Jean, who I guess was your sister,
Yes,
she
sister.
did more of like the
Yeah,
house chores.
Yeah,
where everyone
yeah,
else
she
was
helped
outside.
Aunt Florence.
Yeah, they like to be outdoors.
Yeah, we were.
Aunt Jean,
yeah.
no.
And as I
Yeah.
say, with Bill and I, we were just underfoot all the time.
Well, because you were younger.
Yeah.
So were you and Bill the closest then because of your age? Like you were playing the most together, or how did that work?
He's the one that pushed me out of the haymow, remember?
Right, it's right.
Yeah, and he's the one that pushed me down the ice and ran into my face with his skate. I got a scar. What else did he do? Oh, we were riding bicycles, and I was coming on this side of the barn, and he was coming on this side of the barn, and they met. Instead of one going this way and one going that way. Oh yeah, we got along.
So as well as siblings could, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Martha and I were. Martha was very, very close with Mary Ann, and then Mary Ann moved out, and then Martha was very close with me because we loved to walk, right? And we still rode, so. But Bill was just kind of.
In your younger years, when you were quite young, like 9, 11.
Well, he used to tease me all the time.
Oh.
Yes.
And
And
there...
he stopped teasing me after I got hit by the truck.
Yes, and that's why.
Then he was terrified of me.
Hit by the truck? What happened?
The day that Hurricane Hazel
Okay.
hit, I got hit by a truck.
What year? What date?
I don't know when Hurricane Hazel hit.
You don't remember when you got hit? Or,
What year?
yeah.
I don't know. It would have to be when Hurricane Hazel hit. And
1954.
and Martha and Mary Ann wasn't there. Jean, Martha, Jean, Bill. They were all sitting around here, and Hurricane Hazel hit, and I just gotten hit by the truck, and they were taking me to Sick Children's Hospital in Toronto, and they were saying, I wonder if God's going to be taking her spirit away. Martha pipes up, well, he's making quite a fuss about it. But, yeah, I was unconscious for 5 days.
That's really scary. What happened? Do you mind me asking?
Well, we were on number 8 highway and coming up 5th or what, not 5th, which one was it? Was
Seven?
it seven,
Yeah,
whatever. And there was one behind me, there was me, and then two. And I had just turned.
She was riding a bike.
Yeah, so I was just turned, and I had looked down, and I seen the white line of the road. I'd looked, and I'd seen the truck. Now it was a dip like this. He was up there, so I figured, okay. So I turned out. I looked down between my legs, and there was the white line of the middle of the road. That was it. So afterwards, found out that he had hit another student 2 weeks before. And what he did, my legs were kind of wrapped around the bike somehow. He pulled me to the side of the road to say that I just moved it. So, and then driving the school bus when I was picking up kids, I don't know how we got down to the subject, and I says, yeah, I was in an accident and I died. Died? Yeah, I died. I said, what do you mean you died? Well, I died and went to hell. This is it.
And this is it. Oh, yes.
Kids got a quick kick out of that.
And it's like, no, really.
No, really, I did die. I went to hell. This is it.
The grand delusion. No.
That's scary though.
Sometimes I wonder. Yeah,
So 5 days you were in a coma?
Yeah.
Before you woke up?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what was that like to like be in the hospital to come back home? How long
I was a nasty little creature. I was. I
Yes,
don't know
my
what
mother told
yeah,
me.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but my personality, I just...
You changed?
Well, not so much, but I couldn't grasp any. I just felt out of sorts.
Of course.
So...
You probably had a concussion.
Oh yeah, I did. I have a scar, and I don't know, but he said it's like the Mississippi River. It goes up, and then there's little tributaries that go off the side.
Now, is this before or after you hid my mother's doll?
After. No, before.
Okay.
Oh no, I hid the doll when I was, 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jopian found it when he bought the home.
So what's the story?
When John Jopian purchased the house, he wanted to start doing renovations to what the house would actually be like. So, of course, it's checking the floors. And he took apart part of the floor, and he found a doll in there.
That was up in the attic.
In the attic. And he said to my mom, because my mom, we lived around the corner. So he said to my mom, he goes, Martha, he goes, do you know anything about this doll? And it's like, that was my doll as a child. She took the doll because she was mad at my mother, and she hid it under the floorboards.
And then Martha went absolutely ape.
Oh, yeah.
Like crying and carrying on to Aunt Florence, and there was no way in God's green earth I was going to tell
her where I
doll.
hid that doll.
She would have killed me.
So she made it like the doll,
Then
just
I
got
forgot
lost.
all about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a ghost that got it.
Yeah, that's what
it.
the
It
story
a
was.
ghost, yeah.
I think the ghost got the...
And then
yeah.
I went, okay.
And you know what? When you talk about ghosts, it's one thing we never ever feared about being in this home.
Oh, okay.
No.
You never feared ghosts?
No.
No.
No,
You
no,
didn't
no.
feel like it was haunting? You never told each other
No.
ghost stories?
No. Well, we'd always tell ghost stories,
We
but
always had
we were never... Because, when you think of it, the house is old. Somebody must have died in here. At least quite a few people. Like passed away from old age, heart attacks, whatever. And, but we knew people passed in this house. But it didn't bother us. Yeah. Now, some people did not like that back room. They just got that weird, eerie feeling about it. Did you ever feel that or no?
Yeah.
And Fred did not at all, like my brother Fred.
Oh.
No, he lived here.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is the back kitchen.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the summer
Yeah.
kitchen. Some
Yes.
people felt
Not
Upstairs.
the kitchen, but
Upstairs.
upstairs.
Yes.
Not down below.
the
Down
loft.
below was fine.
Yeah, the loft part.
But the loft part always left me a little, I didn't like it.
Gave you the heebie-jeebies,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
Just didn't
I was
like it.
very uncomfortable
Okay.
in there, yeah.
And you don't have a reasoning why it just felt
No, I just
comfortable.
didn't like it,
Okay.
yeah. Because Martha and I talked about it, and she said, you know, but I says, I don't think anybody, whatever.
But apparently somebody passed in there.
I thought they passed up in Bud's bedroom.
No, I thought it was back in that back.
Oh, it could have been.
Yeah.
I think that's
Where the back window is. Because
yeah. Where
there's
did
charred.
they keep? Had the black guy that came when they hit him.
What's the story?
Yeah, what's that?
When they hit one of the black people.
Slave?
Like a freedom seeker?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard the
No,
story.
neither have I.
What's the
Cool.
story?
I thought you knew about that.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah, he was a slave, and they kept him. I thought they kept him in the basement, no, in the back part. But somebody was saying that they kept him out there because I don't know. Jean was the one that was telling me because that's where there was a fire out in the back kitchen.
Upstairs.
Yeah, upstairs.
Upstairs.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's where he was kept.
So he's actually living in the loft.
Yeah.
Because the fire actually charred part
Yeah.
of. And Jopian's the one that found out this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently he was an indentured slave. I'm trying to think.
I couldn't
Yes.
think.
An indentured slave, so that's a long time ago, who came across, and an indentured slave is somebody who can't afford it, so they work off their the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they
And
kept
he was
him
in the
up, yeah,
farm,
because he was a
and
slave.
apparently, yeah, there was a fire up in that back corner, just by the window. It's charred
Yeah.
by the bricks, and yeah, and he died there. So some people think that the house was kind of haunted by him. As I said, he never bothered. Like, I never felt anything about it, but yeah.
I'm curious about the story. So, was this something that has just been like, it was a story that was told to you?
Yeah.
You say that Jean told the story. Do you know where she might have heard this from? Do we know timelines about when this might have happened?
I have no idea.
Yeah, because I mean,
Jean-
indentured slaves, that's going way back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and when I think of indentured servitude, I think of after slavery had ended.
That's correct.
So that would have been at least 1830s. It was a person of color, you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
So it would have been during the Brown family era, you think?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'd have to
We're
look
not
at it.
100% sure,
Of
but
course.
you know
It's just
that.
a story.
And
Yeah.
it's a story that was just passed down
Yeah.
that Jean told you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Mhm.
And the fire too, or did you know that the fire took place here? Like, did that
Yeah.
happen when you
John
lived here?
Jopian was the one that had
Yeah.
somebody come in the house.
But we don't know when it did.
Okay.
You know, as for dates, no, I have no idea.
Yeah.
You'd have to.
Well, I just remember that when Jopian had purchased a house, there was nothing upstairs. Like, they're all empty rooms. And when he first took over the house, he would hear like furniture scraping and everything, and it's just like there's nothing up there to move.
Right.
So it was almost like you don't get like a Ghostbuster. You get somebody that like a medium, or somebody that has that, baseline. And she basically said, she goes, yeah, there's been quite a few people that passed here, but the one that stands out, she said, is the one that died in the corner up here in this room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
that's when she had said, there's charring on the walls, like on the rock itself. And sure enough, when they went there with lights, and it's like, oh, you could see there was a fire here. And that's apparently where this person died.
Okay.
And so, I think John was he just said, like, I just want to make this a home. I don't, and he said after that, it was quiet.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So that's what John told me. And I just thought, because we always knew, like certain rooms were kind of like, ooh, scary. But then you think that because you know how old the house is, it's like, well, you know, people have died in here. Like, really? Yeah.
Given the age, yes,
Exactly,
it's likely that it
yeah.
happened at some point, but nothing. When your family was here, did anyone die in the house, or?
No. They got, Mom was terribly ill.
Right.
And she had cancer. And that was 1948. Now, they had said to Dad that Mom's got cancer, but they were so close to a cure. This is 1948, and they haven't got a cure yet.
No, it's pancreatic cancer.
Think about it.
Yeah.
1948, and they haven't got a cure yet.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no. And I remember she was in the back room, Bill's back room, where the hall goes, and that bedroom at the very back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was there just before, and then she said, she had me, I was what, 5, and she said, "Do you want to see the scar?" You know, and she showed me, and I remember racing out there, just crying my eyes out, just bawling. And then that night they took her to the hospital, because then her nose started bleeding and there was no stopping, so they took her to the hospital then. But I remember just like, but I remember I seen her when they had her in the casket, and the cat picked me up, and I looked, and I put my hand on her face because she had a wart. And I put my hand, and they had covered the wart up. And so I started bawling again.
Yeah.
But I remember that was not a nice,
Well,
nice
that's a
way to
traumatic
say goodbye
thing.
to your mom.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty heartbreaking.
To have lost her so young. I'm so sorry.
That is young.
Yeah.
Especially when there's so many children, and it's just like, wow. And as I said, I mean, our Aunt Florence coming in, she never had children, but for her to come into this farm and take care of all the kids and my grandfather, I thought, wow. And as I said, a very patient woman, loving, like,
Yeah.
even though I called her aunt, she was like my grandmother. Yeah.
That's
So,
really sweet.
and she would have been like your mom, but you still called
Well,
her
she
Aunt
would,
Florence.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Now, Wendy, what about your mom, Martha? Did she have any memories of her mother? Because she was a little bit older.
She did. Just that she basically said, you know, like she passed at a very young age. She says, I was young. She goes, but there was still Bill and Ethel that were after my mother was born. So, you know, I can't remember really, you know, much of her speaking about her mom.
Of course.
No. It's just that, you know, she told me, like, my mother and I were very close, like sisters almost. And it was really odd because every once in a while I'd even say to her, I said, you know what? I said, instead of being mother-daughter, it's like we're best friends. And she goes, I said, I wonder if your mom had survived, would she have had the same connection to yourself? I think that's one of the reasons why my mom and I were so close, because my mother lost her mother at such an early age. So that, yeah. But my mom was like my best friend, and that's like through my entire life, not just as I got older, but through my whole life, she was like that. So, but I can't remember her speaking of her mom really that much. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what Mary Ann remembers about the house?
What?
When Martha was born?
What?
Martha was born in the house.
Oh.
She was
Yeah, my
born
mom was
upstairs,
born.
yeah.
She was the
Yeah.
only one in the house. Yeah, out of the
And
family.
Mary Ann, she says she remembers it was up in this bedroom, and she held Martha in her arms. She says, that's it. I can remember holding Martha in my arms when she was born.
Yeah.
And she would have been, what, 4 or 5 years older, something like that, but she could remember.
Yeah, well, she's the only one that was born here because, I mean, Bud wasn't, neither was Marianne, nor Aunt Jean.
No.
So I don't know why. Was it because it was like, oops, now I'm ready. Like they didn't have time to get her to the hospital?
Yeah, that was...
Probably. Yeah, that's true.
The rest of us were in St. Catherine's at the... What the heck was it?
Was it a nursing? Not a nursing
Yeah.
home, but kind of like a nursing home. Because it really didn't have a maternity ward back then.
Fair.
So, but yes, because I know that my mom's original birth certificate, I do believe, says she was born on the 29th of August. But when her birth certificate came through, it was the 30th. I'm going,
Yeah.
I said, they have the wrong day. And she goes, I don't know, maybe because it was a home birth, that they were thinking, well, if she dies. I don't know why they did that, because she says, my birthday really isn't the 30th, it's the 29th.
Well, she popped out on the 29th, but then the doctor never got the...
Yeah, he never came until after, so and when he seen her, it was the 30th. So and I thought, but that's really not your birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what they put it down as.
Yeah.
It's official when the doctor comes.
Well, apparently I guess so. It's like, you're not officially dead and said, you're dead.
Yeah.
They've been here for 4 days. Well, now they're dead for sure. So what day do we use? Well, I mean, back then I don't think it was a big science. Really, I mean, when people passed, it's like, well, yeah, they're dead.
Oh, interesting about Martha being born here.
I think that's why John Jopian always said, whenever you want to come in the house, he goes, you're more than welcome. You never have to say, hey, can I take a look at the house?
Right.
Yeah, he goes, you were born here.
Yeah.
Now, something that's kind of interesting, just quick, over at the house.
Okay.
I don't know if you've been in there.
This is the house that you grew up in?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you been in that
I
house?
have not been in that house.
Okay. If you get a chance, in one of the bedrooms, in the back, there is kind of like almost like a drop chandelier, not a chandelier, but a drop style lighting fixture.
Okay.
And that belongs to this house.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
We took it out and it was put in my brother's room. And also, I believe there was a door, but I do believe the door came back to Jopian. But John had said, my mom said, well, did you want to have this taken out and put back over the house? And he goes, no. He goes, I know where it is. So I don't know if it's still there or not. I don't know if one of the two people, well, no, because my brother sold the house. It was still in there. I don't know if the house has only been sold by my brother once and then the Browns bought it, or was it two people, like a very short period of time. But if you do get a chance to look at the house, there is a light fixture, like it hangs, and it used to hang right here in the front door.
Oh, in the main hallway here.
In the main hallway.
Wow.
So if it's still there, bring it on over, because this is where it this is where it originally should be hanging.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And you remember that lighting fixture too?
Yeah, I remember it.
Oh yeah.
So it was here for a while,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
Oh, for a very long time.
Okay.
Like, we didn't put it in our house till our house was built in 61, 62. It wasn't put in that bedroom until maybe the 70s.
Okay.
So it was still in this house until then. Yeah.
Wow.
And I know when they had sold the house to John Jopian, it was basically everything in it is all there, and it's like, no, it's not. There's that light fixture. But John knew it was over there. And also a door that originally came from this house was over at my parents' place.
Okay.
So I'm sure that door, I'm sure, came back. But the light fixture, he says, oh no. So, but he was always very open by saying, like, because my mom was interested, so how far, but like, what are you doing to the house? And so she would, because I mean, you guys were brought up here. So she always thought it was very fascinating to find out. So that's why he always said, Martha, you were born in that house. Anytime you want to come over here and look at it, he goes, if my car's there, just knock on the door and come on in. So, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to be able to have access to it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, so we've covered a lot, and I have a lot of questions about many of the things you brought up. But I do want to go back to the loft for a moment. You mentioned that there might have been a story of a fire, of someone possibly dying, but those were stories that you didn't happen during your lived memory.
No, we weren't around when it happened.
Oh gosh, no.
But what was the use for the loft when you were growing up here? Or
It was a catch-all.
It was just a catch-up for
Yeah,
storage.
yeah.
So it wasn't.
Because we were afraid to go in there because his dad always kept saying, like, don't go out there, don't go into that back room. It's not safe.
Well, it wasn't safe because there was no floor really. It was just kind of like plywood or just
It was not the
there wasn't a floor in that room.
Oh, okay. There was no
Part of it was stone,
Okay.
but that one part to your right hand side was basically opened
Where the stairs are. So
where
that
the stairs
side
are.
is okay.
So it would just had like plywood on it or just
Yeah, it was terrible.
pieces of wood. So it wasn't secure. So that's why my grandfather didn't want anybody going up there.
Fair enough.
That's basically the reason.
Isn't
I don't
that
know
the
why
reason?
it was open though.
Yeah, isn't that the reason Donnie went?
Yes, my brother went through it and landed on implements that were down there and split his foot wide open.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was very dark. We were playing hide and seek and it was a place he was not supposed to go.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And
Well,
he
in this
did.
house, it's amazing because, where can you hide? Anywhere. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, so that was used more for storage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it wasn't a
Wasn't even
bedroom
storage
or
because
nothing
it
like that.
was
No.
Unsafe.
No.
Okay.
Because, and that was in your time that it was unsafe. Well,
Yeah.
it was still unsafe in my time. So,
Well, it never got fixed. That's
Yeah.
what I say. Dad never did anything more with,
yeah.
so.
Okay.
It wasn't a room to say, I think we should do, maybe we'll make this into a loft bedroom. Well, at that time, you're a farmer, you don't think that. It's called, storage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. I want to go back a little bit further. We were talking about the farm and what you were growing here, and you started to talk about the grapes that were grown here. Apparently, your grandfather made really nice wine with the grapes.
Oh, yes. Yes.
What else was grown here after the dairy kind of went away? So we did grapes. What else was grown?
Okay, what kind of
Plums.
What
You had
kind
plums.
of pears did we? Just a second.
And pears. Yeah, I think there were 3 different kinds.
Okay, we had the cattle and then we had the fruit. We had McIntosh, Empire, Cortland, Ida Red, Spartan, whatever, Golden and Red Delicious, and Northern Spies. Those are the apples.
Those
then
are
the
the
pears, we had the Bartlett, the Boss, the Kiefer, and then we had some plums. I mean, we had one, what was that thing that Aunt Florence made? The quince.
Oh, quince, yeah, a quince tree.
Oh, she used to make quince jam.
Yeah.
And was
So
only
it was a
one.
single tree. It wasn't
It was
like
all by itself.
Yeah.
Out in the yeah,
Yeah, she would make jam out of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Wow.
so the orchards were behind the house as well as in front
There's
of
an
the house
orchard
in the
here,
short
and
hills.
then there was an orchard over there. Where
This
the creek, where
orchard-
the pond
Pond
used to
was.
be,
Yeah.
used to be. And then when we fenced that all in, and then the horses were put out there.
Yeah.
And the trees were, and then the pears were out. that
The pears and everything were out here.
Yeah,
Yes.
there was another pond out there, the old pond.
Mm-hmm.
The old pond.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the first pond.
Well,
Yes.
there was this pond in that.
In that pond, yeah.
But, that pond I fell through. That's where Bill hit me with his skate.
Yes, because if where this part is, the pond is here.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like off to the side. The grapes and everything went to the back. So you can even see that there is some type of orchard
Yeah.
back there, but that's where the grapes and the pears and everything. The apples were more behind the house,
Okay.
but it was an open one when you were growing up before he planted.
It was all trees when I was growing up.
Oh, really?
Oh, God.
Yeah, because he had one tree, and I had to rack my brains to find out what it was.
Sweet
It is
bow.
a sweet brow, Brough, is the name of the apple, and it's your first one of the season. It's rather large. It's green, and it is it's the best apple I've ever had. And they're not. It's an old type of apple. It's very hard to find.
Yeah,
I even tried to
interbred
Google it
now.
to see if I could find where anybody sold it, but it was the best eating apple. It wasn't super sweet, but it was the first apple of the season.
Okay.
And when my parents got the property, but they didn't really start building until 61, the apples were still there. And where their house stands, that was part of the apple orchard, because we still had apple trees. Some of them are still standing over the property. And they were basically, the one is a snow apple. And if they could ever get a good farmer or somebody that does that type of thing, if they could bring those trees back, because some of those trees you just don't find anymore. Especially the ones that were in the front of the house over there, which would still be part of this property. They are northern spies. And the spy is the best one to make apple pie, applesauce. And as we said, we had Aunt Florence, so we were all chunky people. Well, basically. Oh, yeah.
Well, you're having good baked goods.
Oh, yeah. So our place still had some of the apple trees left in it
Okay.
when they built that house.
Okay.
And then slowly those trees got pulled, which is too bad because, as I said, that one, that sweet brow, it's, ultimate apple.
The ultimate apple, the sweet brow.
Yeah.
So-
Only one tree right back.
A
Almost
single tree, the sweet
one
brow.
single tree.
Oh, wow.
The rest, I mean, he had like 4 or 5 of this and,
Yeah.
whatever. But there was only one tree with that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I am amazed at the amount of varieties that were here. Quite a few
Yeah.
varieties.
Yeah, lots of pears. Because, I mean, pears all don't come at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the apples.
Yeah.
We have apples that are early season. So, I mean, that way you're not bombarded with having to do all that work at one time. Grapes, you just had a lot of hands doing grapes.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I do have some follow-up questions to that. So you talk about what you grew. How did that work? Like, did you have farm help to pick? Like, how the laborers? Who was helping
Mostly
you
it
with
was
this?
relatives.
Relatives.
Yeah, like Annie definitely would come out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Annie Charles's sister.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We had the help like that. They would come out and help themselves.
Yes. Especially the spies.
Yeah.
When the spies were ready.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause
As I
Annie
said,
had the
yes,
spies.
because we had a lot of people that would stop in and, what are you doing? Oh, you don't mind if I just pick up the apples off the ground, do you? Sure, go ahead. It's in our front yard. But I know that when I was growing up, Grandpa did have a few farm hands, and it was just local kids, like local farmers as well. Because remember, Aunt Florence had that little tiny dog,
Oh yeah.
and Mom was out in the. They were picking pears, and there were 2 boys, and they were like 6'1". They were Dutch, and this little dog was the big defender of everybody. It was a terrier. My mother ended up getting something in her eye. It was probably like a stick or something from a tree that we were pulling, like that we were picking at the time. And he bends over to help my mom with this thing in her eye, and this dog actually ran right up his leg and was going for his throat.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
going, yes, Tinkerbell. She was mean. I mean, good to us. She was a big protector. But I do remember those 2 boys. They were brothers, but yeah, they were like 6 foot, and because we really didn't need a lot of ladders with those guys helping us pick some of the fruit. So, but not an entire farm hand. It would be like 2 or 3 people. That's it.
And they would just come for the season.
They would just
and
come
they
for the
would be-
season, and
Oh, yeah,
they
nothing.
would be like local
So
people.
local
Yeah.
people.
Well, Dad did most of the trimming and that. We
Yeah.
trimmed. Like I remember 1, 2,
Oh,
3,
yeah.
4,
They don't
5,
like doing
6,
grapes.
7. All good girls go
To heaven.
Snip.
Yes.
That's how we
Okay.
When
For
you're
the
tying
bud-
and wiring grapes.
Yeah, for the
Okay.
buds,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
count the buds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, snip, that was 2
Yeah.
wires.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that's how you remember, how far do I go across? Where do I cut for the grapes?
1,
So
2,
you
3,
make up
4,
your
5, 6,
own
7.
little, yeah, 5, 6, 7.
I
Yeah.
All girl goes,
Yeah.
girl to heaven.
Yeah,
Snip.
but lots of grapes, yeah.
Lots of grapes.
Oh, yeah.
Changing the subject completely, I just remember the stoves that we had.
The stoves
Yeah.
in the
'cause-
house.
Yeah, because out there, because we slept upstairs, and in the wintertime it would get very, very cold.
Okay, so these are the heating stoves.
Well, we had the coal stove, the round coal stove in that room, and a wood stove and a coal stove here. We had the coal stove, then we had the wood stove, then they had the space heater.
I was around in the space
Yeah,
heater.
Yeah, but I
era.
remember, but I was in the coal stove, and we used to have a little hanger thing there. We had to hang our clothes up at night, go upstairs, freeze, and then in the morning, zoom,
Zoom down, yeah.
and I mean zoom, and Dad would have the stove going. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, so the clothes would be nice
Oh, yeah.
and warm.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, it
definitely.
was cold, but I
So
remember-
those stoves were in here in the dining room.
yeah, there was a coal stove in here and a coal stove in there.
So what we call the parlor. What did
Yeah.
you call that room?
Back room.
Just the
Yeah,
room?
just,
This
Yeah,
was the front room, that was
yeah.
the back room.
Oh, this was the front room.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the
That was
back.
back.
this was the main room that we all kind of hung around.
Yeah.
Now, our Aunt Florence loved listening to Liberace music. Like she loved like that kind of like piano and stuff like that.
So
So
classical.
she, yes, very like classical. So she always had a record player in there, and that's where she would, go in the afternoon for a cup of tea, do whatever, listen to her music until something came on at 7.
The Lone Ranger or
Lone
the,
Ranger,
or
any kind of
the
program. Then she'd
Shadow
come back in
Dog.
here and they would watch TV. But that room was used, but not like not like a gathering room. Like we would sit there with my Aunt Florence, of course.
Right.
My grandfather never really went into that room a lot. This was his room right here. Yeah.
And so the room again, we call this dining room, but to you it was the back room, and it was more of the entertainment family.
This was
room.
like the living room. This is where the
Living
family
Yeah.
gathered.
So the TV was here.
Yeah,
Yes.
right over there.
Right on the wall where our
Yeah.
bath wall is now.
No, actually, because there was a wall there. It was sat in
in
the corner.
the corner.
Yeah, in the corner. Yeah.
Okay.
But this is where we ate.
So there was a table in here too.
Oh yeah, a dining room table and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that room there, when that door was closed and that other door was closed, and there was a radio in there.
Yes.
Mary Ann
Yeah.
would close the doors and we'd try to think about having at night. We'd be all sitting around listening to the Shadow.
Yes, because that was
She-
the
and she-
hall.
Yeah, and she
that's
would
where it
try to be kind of spooky. You know? Okay, Marianne, But, oh yeah.
So the radio was in the front room.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
in the hall.
In the hallway.
In the hall.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And then the TV was in the
Here.
This,
room.
yeah, we'd call this basically
The living room.
the living
The
room.
living
Yeah,
room.
the living room. But we ate here. This is where
Everything took place.
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
And
this
right
was-
off the kitchen was right by, so that makes sense. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I wanted to just go back to the farming for one more moment. I wanted to ask, so you had a lot of family and local people help you when it was time to harvest and that stuff. But what did you do with the fruit? Was there someone to pick it up? You said there was a place to drop it off. How did that work? Where did you go?
We
How to take it?
Well, we took the grapes to the train station,
Okay.
and that's where they went. The fruit,
Some of it went there because I do
Yeah.
remember
it was some.
the
but-
old style wooden. It looks like what would I call it? It looks like a long ruler, very thick, long ruler with holes in it, and that's how we graded the pears.
Oh, like by size.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that fit into the first hole and went through, well, that's not the best apple. So, I mean, that's how they graded them. I thought it was kind of cool. But I do remember that. But yeah, I forget what they're called.
Everything went over to the shipping where
In
the
Toronto.
train would, train would stop.
And pick up. Yeah.
Pick up.
So at the St. Catharines train station, so you would take
Yeah.
Pelham Road down to the train station, I guess.
Yeah,
Mhm.
whichever way, yeah.
And then you would load the train, and then they would go to Toronto to the terminal.
We did not load the train.
You did not load
No.
the train.
We just
Someone
took it,
loaded
yeah, we
Yes.
just.
It was that
Niagara,
basically, is it Niagara
Cooperators or something
Cooperators or
on that
Tender
line.
Fruit or,
Yeah.
they're the ones that all the farmers, that's where their fruit went to.
And then so there
And
was
then-
a group there, the Tender Fruit Farmers. Or
Yes,
Niagara
it was like a-
Growers.
Yeah.
Exactly, like a Niagara Growers
Is that
type
what
of
it's
thing.
called? Oh, okay.
I don't know what the name of it was. I just
So-
remember it being a building, concrete, and you drive up the truck with all the fruit on it, and basically by that time it's already graded, and they would take it. It would be stored in there because it was cold, and then it would go on the train.
Yep.
Yeah, but all the farmers around here did the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, did you like share a truck, or did like you have your
No,
own truck?
Dad had his own truck.
Dad has his own
Yeah.
truck.
That's where I learned how to drive. I was 15.
Wow. And where would you keep the fruit in the meantime? Because I imagine you would pick it. Would you load it right onto the truck, or did it stay
It
in
could-
like a shed?
I think we had a shed, but we had the back shed,
Back shed.
the implement shed.
The implement shed. So where was that?
Okay, where
Where the barn is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ethel's standing up. She's going to our
am.
picture here.
I did my exercise yesterday.
Oh, we're sore. I know the feeling.
Now, where the barn is, I don't know how Mary Ann missed them, but in this area here, like there was a lane that went around, and then the lane went back that way, and right in where those trees are.
That's where the
Where she's thinking, with these fern trees here,
Oh.
they would have been on this line, because I used to sit on the roof here and shoot the starlings in that, because they'd get into the fern trees, right, and I'd shoot them with the creek was, or where the pond was. But in here, there was two sheds.
and they were stone based.
Implement sheds.
Yeah.
And they were stone-based implement sheds.
Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
So the stone would always keep everything colder.
Of course.
Yeah.
And that was
But they
behind
never-
the barn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Beside the barn.
Beside,
because the
yeah.
road, or the trail went around this way, and then they were there, and the
Yeah.
barn was here.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Now, in my time, it was no longer a full size building. Like it was already falling apart. But I do remember the stone because I thought, oh, look all the stone.
And the bees.
And the bee. Oh yeah, and bees. Yeah.
Like just lots of bees around.
Honeybees.
Oh, okay.
Buzzy
Well,
bees.
Yeah. Well, honeybees because I mean.
They really like the white nests around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, try riding a horse around there. I'm not
Oh.
going past there.
So even the horse didn't go near
No,
there 'cause of the
no.
bees. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you had the fruit farm up until you remember when growing up. So in the 60s, the fruit farm was still there.
Was
but
still around. Yes. In the
but it was
60s. I think by getting close
When did
to
Masterson buy the farm?
when in Masterson, so that's so you think that the house beside us, our neighbor,
Yes.
that was built by the Masterson family?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
It was built, and then that was around the 60s, I think.
No.
I thought it was later.
Was
than
it
that.
later?
Yeah,
because
because
I had Debbie in '62, and we fixed our house up, and we lived here for almost 3-4 months while my house was being
And
done.
that house wasn't there yet.
That house wasn't there
No.
when, I'm trying to think of how old I was. Our house was built in 61.
Yeah, because Bob.
That wasn't there.
No. Oh
No.
gosh, no.
But because I remember I would have to have been at least 11 or 12 years old when they were still picking grapes.
Right.
Grapes, definitely. Pears went away fast. I remember the pears being here the longest. But The grapes were here the longest. Pears and that, I remember, I'd have to be at least 11 or 12.
Well, we had Debbie in 62. I remember
That's why I
Bob
couldn't.
had asked Dad if he could take over the farm.
Oh, I think 1966 maybe. Does that make sense to you?
Well, probably later than that. Bob had
Later
just
than
started working at General Motors,
Oh,
my husband. And he'd been working about a year at General Motors, and Dad was going to sell the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And because Bill had no interest, he was in military college, right? So Bob had asked Dad, if he could buy it, and he'd take care of it.
Oh.
And Dad said, no, you've got a job at General Motors, you keep that job. Because General Motors was, Generous Motors. They
Yeah.
called it.
Well, back in the day, yes.
It was
General
Generous
Motors
Motors.
was very
He
good.
says, you got a job like that, he says, keep that, don't become a farmer.
Yeah, we
Oh,
don't really know
wow.
when the land was severed, when Grandpa actually severed all the land.
Yeah. Because, he didn't. Masterson bought it,
Well, that's what I mean. I don't
Yeah.
know when Masterson actually
but
bought
that
it.
would be in the record, so I mean,
Yeah.
that would be hard to find.
I think from the land registry records that we looked at, might have been 1966, but
That it was divided?
maybe. But
Did
Yeah, but that house was not built.
so maybe it took a while for the house to be
Well,
built.
it would have been a while,
Yeah.
but I know Bill Masterson, Mr. Masterson, had the farm, but that house wasn't,
No.
that was quite a while later. Oh, yeah, I don't
Well,
even
he
think.
bought the property. And
Yeah, he bought the property. He didn't build, they did not build that house until, I was in my teens. So, I mean, it wasn't, once they bought the property, they built that house.
No.
It
Okay.
stayed empty, like as a farm.
Yeah.
Um,
That's interesting about you said, Ethel, about your husband wanting to purchase the farm and your dad saying GM is better.
Yeah.
Wow. That must have been hard for your dad though, knowing all of the love and effort you put into the farm but to make that decision.
Yeah. But, hindsight. Hindsight. He knew what it was like, and he said, you've got a darn good job.
yeah.
And you
Generous
got the
motors.
and you
Yeah.
got the benefits,
Yeah.
and this was a big thing, and it still is.
Mm-hmm.
The benefits and stuff like that.
Yeah, because back in
Don't
the day,
give that up.
yeah.
Wow.
No. So,
Yeah, fair enough.
but, so what we do, we went out and bought a gold darn fruit farm and wine land.
So he still, her husband
Yeah.
still did farming, but on a small scale.
Yeah,
Right.
Like a
25
hobby
acres.
farm.
Yeah, 25
Yeah, that's
acres.
basically, yeah.
Harvey
That's what we call it, a hobby farm, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably that house wasn't built until like,
Oh, I can't remember when it was built.
A long
I
time.
never paid any attention. I just,
oh, I knew.
Yeah.
Because I remember still walking down to that barn, not with a house there, because I mean, that cuts the property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even remember when they tore the barn down. When I was younger, I'd walk past the barn and knew, like it was on its last legs type
Yeah,
thing.
but
It
it's
was
still
very
it's
sad.
still hung in there when I was growing up, because like when Ethel was saying about playing in the hay mow, hey, that was a blast.
And so you did that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it had a very high peak,
Right.
so it was And as she said, like there was places that you could actually swing and drop into the hay, and because it wasn't bales of hay yet, and it was loose hay, yeah, it's totally different. Because I mean, it's just like landing somewhere fluffy. Yeah.
Why is there a truck out there? There he goes.
I do, yeah.
I do.
And you don't remember when the barn was torn down?
No,
No?
I have
No.
no idea.
No idea.
At that point, I was not involved with the farm at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if Masterson actually tore it down.
Yeah, he might have, because he, they
Is
planted
there
grapes.
is there any way that you guys can find out if any of the stone wall is left?
Well, we could like when looking into when we look into their backyard, we can see their garage, and it looks like some of that stone wall.
Yeah,
It's still there.
Probably was.
Yeah.
Probably was.
So-
Definitely, because it was a stone wall.
Yeah.
The foundation of the barn was.
Yeah, but then it would also be the foundation of the implement sheds because
Yeah.
they were stone
Yeah.
as well. But as I said, like growing up, that barn was still full size.
When,
With
and,
Functional.
growing up.
Functional.
It was functional,
Very
yes.
Functional.
and
yeah.
you remember that too. And what else do you remember about the farm, Wendy? Like, do you have any memories of any other memories of the fruits, of the orchards, or anything like that?
Mostly the fruits and doing grapes. But my thing was, when we were growing up, it's basically the same as what you see out there now. No city sidewalks, no city lights, no city water, basically, and it's still true to this day. So there's no city buses. So you made the best of what you had around. We never asked our
Bicycles.
parents, can you take us into the city? We just didn't do it. Garner's service station, we'd go there for an ice cream or something once in a while. But we were just always outside.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's all, that's how we
That's
grew
all
up.
we did, yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't miss anything. Like people go, oh, I really like pop. I'm going, never been a pop person. And they go, oh, because we didn't grow up on it. And it's like, nah, I could give it a take. It doesn't matter. Because we just didn't have the convenience of a corner store. And we never whined about, can we go to the corner store? And I think the closest one at the time was down Pelham Road. And it is near the medical center.
Okay.
Now it's a little Italian place, but at one time it used to be an Avondale, and then before that it belonged to an Italian family. It was their house. They lived in the back, but had a storefront. That was the closest corner store.
Oh wow.
So I mean, that's many miles. And if you wanted to do something, you walked. You rode a bike. That's how you got around. Yeah.
Yes, we walked 2 miles
Yeah.
to the school in the snow up to our chins.
Yeah, because you went to school up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was
Well, I went to West Park, and no, if we missed the bus or we did something after school, we would just walk home.
Right.
Like West Park's over on Love Street, and I'm like, yeah, that's,
yeah.
But
this-
we would think nothing of it because, I mean, that was the
That's
way
the
we
way you
grew
got
up.
around.
Yeah.
That's how you
It's
got
like,
around.
oh, it's going to take us 40 minutes. So we walk real fast.
Yeah.
My mother even used to say that. She goes, why do you walk fast? I'm going, I'm in a hurry to get someplace. I don't know.
So
But-
when you went to West Park.
Went to
and
West
there-
Park.
And there was the school bus that would take you, and if you missed it, you would walk.
Yeah, like coming home.
Oh, to come
Yeah.
home. Oh,
Now that would be because I'm in high school, but grade school,
Yeah.
we went all the way out to St. Edward's in Jordan.
Wow, St. Edward's in Jordan was your school. And
Yes.
there was a bus there to
Yes, because don't ask me why my parents wanted to send us to a Catholic school.
because of your father.
Because my father being Roman Catholic. Okay, well,
Not
whatever.
a practicing Catholic.
But my brother, who's a year older than me, he went to St. Anthony's in St. Catherine's. And that's kindergarten, and he would run away from school. And at that time, they had nuns. He would run away and go to my grandmother's house, who, it's a fair little walk. So the next year, when it was my turn to start school, that summer they were building St. Edward's School, and my dad said, if he can walk, if he wants to not be at school, he can walk all that way. I'm thinking, oh, that's a distance from Jordan. So that's why we went all the way out to Jordan. We never went into a city school.
So because your brother would run away from school. you
Yes,
went to
even
school
as a
in
kindergarten. In kindergarten.
Wow.
I thought, how bad were they? Well, even though we did go to another Catholic school, like secondary school, there was no nuns.
Right.
But when Fred went, it was nuns.
Mm.
So, yeah. But yeah, we get up in the morning, and it was, we were picked up at 10 after 8 in the morning.
Wow.
And that's when it would be driving through all the countryside to get to Jordan's school, Jordan station. Yeah, but no, growing up in high school, because we were more outside-oriented people, of course, thank goodness we didn't have cell phones and everything like that growing up. Walking for us was absolutely nothing. It didn't, you know.
So just the only way you could get around, so
Yeah.
you're gonna do it.
Yeah, and it's people that would say, "Well, did you take the bus?" And I'm going, "No." I said, "There is no school. There is no city bus out here. And why would I want to get a city bus once I get into because this was still city limits, but it was considered Louth Township when my mother was born. Yeah, when I look at her birth certificate, that's what it says, Louth Township. And I thought once we got into the city where the city buses would run, we were only 5 minutes from where we were going, so it's like, why bother? So walking was our main mode until, of course, we got old enough. I mean, my parents would take us if there was something that we really needed to go to, but other than that, no, we outside, yeah.
And how about you, Ethel? You were walking too, or?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Okay, so where did you
We
walk?
Just Mount View School over here.
So Mountain View School.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
high school.
We had a bus.
And where was your high school?
St. Catherine's Collegiate,
St. Catherine's College.
and then Beansville High School.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. There was a switch.
yeah. Well, Beansville High School became available at that point. But we were in the city, the bus, and then they had another bus that took us to Beansville. So.
What high school did you prefer?
Beansville,
You liked Beamsville?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But
What grade?
9 and 10.
In collegiate?
9, yeah.
Okay, okay. What do you mean 9 and 10? That's all you went to?
Yeah.
Oh.
Really?
Why
Did
would
not
I
know
go
that
in-
you did not graduate. Grade 12.
No way. Did you?
Yeah.
Good for you.
My mother
And
went
what
to
did
college.
Okay, and then what did it prove for you? And
Absolutely
what
nothing.
huge outlook on
Oh
life
no, it's just that
have
I
you
know
got
that my
you-
mom ended up going to the collegiate to be, like, she had to take secretary, and I can't see my mother ever doing that. I'm going, why would they do that? But at that time, that's what I said. Women, because you lived on a farm, you basically wore jeans all the time. Jeans, pants. But when you got to school, and depending on what it was, because I think my
Yeah.
mom was taking like clerical, shorthand and stuff like that. She had to wear a skirt, but she was okay with that.
Yeah, but did she go all the way through?
I don't.
No, she didn't.
No, I don't think she did.
No, she didn't.
Yeah.
Because, no, a little, I got hit by the truck when I was in grade 8 because I was just coming out of, but no, high school, I was, ooh.
And here, Uncle,
I was a rebel.
You're
But
That's the word
but
I'm looking
what-
for.
what
I was
about,
a rebel.
what about Bud?
What about Bud?
Do you know how far of school he went to?
Oh, he went all the way through. He
Yeah.
was worked for Pitney Bowes.
Yeah.
Bowes. And that
And
was,
Bill did too, Uncle
oh
Bill.
yeah, he went to military college.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, the boys were. I don't know.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the boys were
Yeah.
academic. They went all the way
Yeah.
and further schooling.
Yeah.
And Ethel, you said you were a rebel, so you just didn't want to finish school?
No.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
I wanted to ride motorcycles and hang out with guys.
No, I just hung out with motorcycles.
Well, really, when you think of it, I mean, who was your closest neighbor?
Austin's.
Austin's.
Yeah.
Where were the Austins?
Yeah.
And where were they? On Pelham Road?
Yeah, right over on the corner.
Around the bend?
That
Yeah.
was the house that was back in there. If you take a look at the picture with the standing on the roof,
Yeah.
Okay.
it was the White House that was over there. They were Austin's.
Awesome. And were you friends with the Austins?
Oh gosh, yeah. They were our buddies.
Okay.
Martha and Jeannie Austin,
Mm-hmm.
me and Gary Austin, Jean and but Marianne and Leonard and Jean, I can't remember the guy's name, but they were, you know, the same
Age group.
age type, and
Okay.
we were buddies, like we were real good buddies.
Yeah, because I mean, you didn't have a
started
next door neighbor.
smoking together.
Okay.
We used to take Aunt Florence's cigarettes.
Aunt Florence.
Yeah, Aunt Florence.
Yeah.
Poor Aunt Florence must be wondering, okay, I must be getting
she
senile
did.
because
Yeah,
we did the same thing, Donnie and I.
Was Aunt Florence too?
Yes. She smoked Rothmans.
She smoked
Yeah.
blackjacks.
Oh, at your time? Oh, mine was Rothmans. My grandfather smoked Rothmans cigarettes, and my Aunt Florence smoked Rothmans as well.
No, mine was Black Cats.
Black Cats. I don't think they were around when I started growing up. No, I don't think so.
Well, I was.
But poor Aunt Florence must be going, what's going on? I'm losing my
All
mind.
the-
Why are my
yeah,
cigarettes
all
all
this
missing?
all this time she lived in the house, and her cigarettes kept disappearing through the generations.
Exactly.
Through the generations, her cigarettes kept
Yeah.
missing.
Well, you know, the first time, oh, let's try smoking. And I remember Donnie, he's going, but the smell. And he got a clothes clip and put it on the cigarette. And he's smoking it almost like a roach clip. That's hilarious. But Aunt Florence was going, I thought, Charlie, did you take that pack of cigarettes of mine? I was like, no. I'm thinking, we did. But yeah, she was very, 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 like, easygoing. I don't think I ever heard that woman swear in my life.
I know. I was going to say she wouldn't say with a mouthful.
No, you know what? Just very easygoing. I mean, she was an absolute doll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
And she
What
was.
She had to put up with them.
And I'm trying to think in, like, because your mom, Ada, I'm trying to think of where they stood in the, Aunt Florence was the youngest. No, Aunt Martha was the youngest, and Aunt Florence was the oldest, and the girls all in between passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Because Ada, my grandmother, and Aunt Florence's sisters. But yeah, and for the longest time, I just remember my Aunt Florence and my Aunt Martha. Yeah.
Yep. And Aunt Alice.
Aunt Alice, yeah, definitely. I do
Aunt
remember
Alice.
her, yeah.
She was a hoot.
But
She
yeah,
had a
just
sense of humor. You would. She
but
would, yeah.
you know,
she
there
had-
wasn't a lot of swearing or anything like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
but she was
had-
very hilarious when she'd say Charlie. She always called him Charlie, not Charles.
Yeah, that reminds me. I got a picture, 2 pictures that were in this house. They're big, and they're. I don't know whoever painted them, and I'm pretty sure it was one of my relatives. Like, wasn't Aunt Min, one of Dad's sisters? They were quite talented, and they used to hang, and it was elks. I still got them, and I'm trying to get rid of them. You don't want them, do you? But anyway, they're big pictures, and one is they're fighting, and the next one is the death scene. And they're laying there, and there's a fox, and, you know, the hawk flying around. And they were there in Aunt Florence. Charlie, you get rid of them pictures. We don't want them in the house anymore. And I said, well, who are you going to give them to Ethel?
We'll give them to Ethel. Ethel can take
So
those.
I got them, and I don't know what to do with them.
Lucky you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no,
I'm sure
you know,
you
and
don't
it's
want
very
them.
sad because I mean, certain pictures.
Oh, this is Aunt Florence just, she hated them pictures.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her. I'm not crazy.
No,
about it, but-
we were in a thrift store and I was looking at some stuff and I looked over and I seen these pictures and I thought, oh my, it's so sad when people pass. If they don't have a family or the family just doesn't want the pictures, they end up someplace like that. And it's like, oh, it's sad.
Well, the
Really?
stories are lost with them, right?
Well, it is, yeah, exactly, yeah,
Well, as I say, I don't know who, because they never signed it.
yeah.
And I know, like, they came from here, but where they came before, or who, I don't know. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
and you know what, it's very hard unless you know art and how to find out the background.
yeah.
It's very difficult, yeah. Because I know I had a picture, which I gave to my one niece, Jess, and they would say, I said, I love that picture. And everybody in the family didn't like the picture and goes, why don't you like this picture? And she goes, because it hung up in the sick room, which would be that back room upstairs. And I think you're using it as a little office.
Yes.
That would be the sick room. If
that
you're
was-
sick, you're stuck in that room. Because this way you don't give anybody else the measles, chicken pox, whatever. You're stuck in a room. And this picture hung on the wall. So everybody hated it because it's like one time or another, that's all they're staring at is this one picture. And I said, I've always liked the picture. And Jess liked the picture, so I gave it to her. Haven't seen it since, but yeah. But I mean, it's stories like that, and it's like, oh, you know, like, you just...
I don't remember it, and I got stuck in that room quite often.
Oh, if you've seen the picture, I had the picture hanging in my place for a long time.
Okay.
I'm sure if you saw it, you might remember.
You would remember it.
So you were also in the sick room a couple times.
I think they all were.
Well,
I mean-
Mary Ann, I think, I don't know where she was, but Martha and I got the chicken pox at the same time. They're the ones that you itch, right?
Yes.
Okay. Scratch my back. I don't want to scratch your back. Why don't you scratch my back? Scratch
My back.
That was Martha. Oh, she was mean. She made me scratch her back, and I'm in tears because my back's driving me nuts. And we were stuck in
that little room?
No, in the bigger room.
Oh, in the bigger room, okay.
Yeah, because we were in the big bed, right? They stuck us. No, mine was earaches.
Oh.
And they'd stick me in that room, and Mary Ann would come in and try to put a pillow over my head because I wouldn't stop
yeah, well,
crying.
that kind of makes me wonder. No, but I mean, it's rooms like that. That's what I mean. It's certain rooms of the house. That's what you used it for.
Well, I told Mary Ann that, and she just chuckled.
Oh
And
yeah.
it didn't work good. And I said,
No.
no. But, no. Oh. And Aunt Florence would come in and quit beating up on your sister. Well, she
Yeah.
won't stop crying. I said, okay. And then I'd cry more.
Oh yes.
Because then I get the sympathy, and I get a glass of milk and a cookie.
Sam Florence loved you. See, Ethel?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh,
There
yeah.
you go.
She was my protector.
Well, she was like that with Donnie too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe we can take a break for a bit and maybe get some water.
Yeah.
Yes, so a couple more questions. More around, I want to ask a few more questions about like the use of the rooms in the house, but I'm also curious about the community and the places you went. I know you mentioned walking and that's something else I'd like to talk about. But first, the rooms of the house. Just when we were on break, Ethel took a peek in our back storage room and she said, that used to be Aunt Florence's bedroom
Yes.
that connected up with the back of our parlor.
That's right.
And there used to be a toilet in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you
Where did they go?
can you share a little bit more about how, like, what were the spaces in the rooms in the house? Just kind of maybe go through the layout.
Well, this was cut off because there was the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the picture of me and Martha doing dishes, of course. So this brought this smaller. And then you've got a picture of them having their Thanksgiving meal, like Bob and Fred
Oh,
was on
yeah.
this side. And the big table was here. And that
So you had a
room
big dining room table was in the front of our dining room.
was right here.
In front of all the windows. That'd be so pretty.
Yeah, yeah.
And as the family started to grow,
Yeah.
like when we started coming along, the nieces and nephews, all the adults ate here at the big table, and we got little tables. So the kids, yeah,
On
that
a
was-
table in
yeah.
the same room.
in the same room, yeah.
Sometimes we put you out in the back.
No.
Yes.
Why?
Because.
No, I just remember because Aunt Mary Ann was not staying in this area. When they came down for any kind of family function, there'd be John, Kenny, Lindy, Donnie, Fred, and myself. And we'd be at this little table. So it's just like the adults sat there, and it's like with any family, once it starts to expand, and the kids are old enough to feed themselves and stuff like that, you got your own little chair and tables and stuff like that. It wasn't a setup that was always there. It was only when we had family get-togethers, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, whatever it could be.
Get out the card table.
Get out the card table. Yeah, we would have a card table,
Yeah.
and that's where the kids would sit. And you're right when Ethel said about, because I noticed that the very first time I came in to see the house, because I was interested in the birdcage tavern style, and when I looked at the room, I went, but this was like a full-size bedroom at one time.
Yeah.
Because that birdcage was it Joe Pian or the Browns that found that?
John Jupian would have
Yeah.
done that.
Okay, John.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did find it.
So that was a solid wall, but that's where my Aunt Florence was as she got older. And that's why my grandfather put a toilet in there for her and everything else, because other than that, it was upstairs, and still to this day, and even Ethel tells me that when you were growing up, that toilet, that bathroom was up there, and it was just kind of a partial bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
And the light socket, it was just a light bulb with a string hanging down to turn it off and on, like a chain, like a pull chain. And you would get zapped every single time. Nobody wanted to pee in the dark. Let's pee in the dark because nobody wants to get the shock. But basically that was it. And Ethel said that she goes, oh yeah, it was the same when we were growing up.
So you also got shocked by
Oh,
the
yeah.
bathroom?
Oh yeah. And I thought, well, that means it's not grounded. And I'm thinking, well, who knows what kind of electricity runs through the house.
Well,
But you didn't think of that as a kid.
Well,
No.
I'd have to go upstairs and see the medicine cabinet. You didn't take it out, or did you? There was and when you open the door, the other bedroom upstairs was there, and Bill dug a hole so that he could peek in at Jean.
Is she sleeping?
Oh, she found out about that. Oh.
And that probably, but would that not be?
That would be Bill.
Yeah. But would that not be considered the sick room?
No. Jean's, no. Upstairs.
Okay, so let me try and
Okay.
understand. Okay, so we're upstairs on the second floor of the John Brown house. I think the back room that's currently our HVAC room, that used to be where your bathroom was.
Yes.
And it was only a partial bathroom. There was a light with a pull down to turn it on.
Pull
You
chain,
get
yeah.
shot or shocked every time. And it's when you say partial bathroom, what do you mean? Like, was there a shower, a bathtub?
Bathtub.
Bathtub.
Bathtub and the heater.
And a heater.
Yeah,
an
because
electric
they're
heater,
cold.
and the bathtub, and the sink, and then the toilet, and then the door, and then the wall here, and then the other bedroom was here.
Okay, and so that's where there was the medicine cabinet with a little hole
it was here.
that you could.
Yeah, so he
Okay.
could peek in that bedroom there.
And
And then there was the big bedroom here. Well, this was the sick room.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
upstairs.
which one was the sick room?
It was upstairs. This one down here was.
Okay, so I'm just trying to. So because I was thinking the sick room was where we have a little office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sick room is a corner bedroom.
The corner bedroom.
Yes. Top of the stairs. Come back towards the front of the house. Go into the big bedroom there, and there was a little bedroom in the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
That was the sick room.
Yeah.
That's what we called it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
And that was also where Jean slept.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was her
Why? It
bedroom.
sounded like she was sick all the time.
Well, no, but that was her bedroom, and then the big bedroom was Martha and Marianne slept here, and I got to sleep over by the window.
And did anybody ever use that small room as a bedroom?
What's wrong?
Didn't Aunt Jean use that after? The one that's right at the end of the hall up
Bill.
top. Oh, okay.
That was
Well-
Bill's bedroom.
Well, Uncle
Bill-
Bill, by the time,
No, but that was his bedroom
Okay.
as he was growing up, and
Okay.
then the stairways here, and then the master bedroom where Dad, and then the other bedroom here was Bud's.
yeah.
But he wasn't there that long. I don't remember him that much at
Yeah.
all.
Well, that's where Fred stayed.
But that's where
Yeah.
that's where young Fred stayed,
yeah.
in that bedroom, because that was that one, and then the stairs, and then Bill, us, and then Jean.
Yeah.
Okay, so where we've currently opened up to restore the ballroom.
Ballroom, yeah.
So that was the 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Bill was in 1 bedroom. Bud was in the other?
Bill was on the end of the
Bill,
hallway.
it was your dad that was in the other bedroom.
Yes,
Yeah,
my
there was the
grandfather, yes.
master, and then Bud, and then the stairs,
Okay.
and then Bill, big pink.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so your dad was in the master bedroom, which was at the kind of exact.
Yeah.
Yeah, right
pretty
above
much
us.
right above us.
Yeah.
Basically above us, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, and then all the girls seem to have slept in where all of our
Yeah.
offices are
Yeah.
Yes.
at this
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the loft was storage,
Yes.
the catch-all room.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted an idea, and so were there many changes? Like, did you build walls when you were
No.
here? Everything was already.
No, everything was pretty well here.
Oh, okay.
Like as I say, they've changed things upstairs. I can't remember what it's like now. But you go up the stairs and then to come into this, where you say the hall, dance hall or whatever you want to call it.
Ballroom.
Is it? There was a wall on the stairs, and then there was a banister, and then there was the wall, and then you walked into Dad's bedroom here, and here they had a huge closet, the big closet there, and then Dad's bedroom, and then Bud's bedroom.
Okay.
But when I went out there, I think there's a wall there. Well, it used to be a banister.
Yeah.
So,
But during your time,
Oh, it was
Grandpa
just-
didn't build an extra
no,
room
no, he
or
never put
up walls or anything. It was pretty well what
It was established. By
Yeah.
the time I was born, it was established. But the dad, I don't know what he walked into,
yeah.
you know. But I don't know.
And even the kitchen down here, like that wall was all established by the time you remember, like having the kitchen where it was inside.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was all
yeah,
established.
yeah. There was no kitchen out in the back.
Right.
You know.
And then Wendy, when you were growing up, you're the next generation. How were the rooms used any differently?
No, exactly the same.
Okay.
But mind you, now my aunts and uncles
Yeah.
weren't living here anymore.
Right.
So, but they were still basically just, they never changed it into like a study or. We always looked at that back, like upstairs. That big bedroom is just a bedroom.
Mm.
I mean, there wasn't a bed or anything. I think there might. Oh, there was.
Oh
The
yeah, because
metal,
Debbie had to stay there one
Yeah,
time, and I
but that's
caught a bunny,
yeah.
and she wouldn't let it go, so she kept it up in the bedroom.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There's a little sweet little bunny, and Aunt Florence, she was down here, thank God. If she had known there was a bunny out there.
Yeah, because
he was a smelly little thing at times, we had to take care of him. But
Yeah.
then finally, at last, I took him down to the short hills
they let them loose.
and let him loose on this side, which was the hunting side, instead of putting him over on the good side.
Oh, he's a rabbit. I'm sure he might have hopped the other way up. Who knows?
But no, she had him up there for a good 2 months.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
2 months of having a rabbit up there. Wow.
Yeah, that was her pet.
That's great.
But no, the rooms were, pretty well
The
the
same.
same as what they are now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they aren't now because this is completely
Yes, this is
changed,
different. I
and
mean-
the outside is completely changed.
Once you've shown us where certain walls were, I mean, I could understand it being, a little different. Yeah.
Mm.
But the outside, where we had that shed. Now, when you stop and think about it, how did we get up onto the roof?
Of this house, I have
Crawl out
been
of the
wondering
window
that.
From the outside.
From the outside.
Yeah.
So
How did we climb up to get to the roof?
how did you?
There was a porch out there.
Out the back.
Oh, at the back.
Yeah, and it was just
Okay.
and it was a porch, and it had the thing. We'd climb up, get on the roof, and then go over. And then if we wanted to get out, we used the bathroom window or the
Oh.
hallway window.
Yeah.
Okay.
But to get from outside, we used to climb up and it's gone now. And okay.
Well, probably because it wasn't part of the
Dad
original.
didn't put, Dad
Yeah.
never put that up there, but
So it was
somebody
already
did.
there.
Yeah,
So the
And
porch
it
was
was-
already there by the time
Yeah.
you remember.
yeah, because it was, there was a bicycle in there, and I do believe there was a well.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and of course it's been covered over, and
What, outside?
yeah, outside, right over here.
Yeah, where the hand pump was.
No, not
Oh, a
that
different well,
one.
okay.
Yeah, this
Go
was where the shed was.
Oh,
Like
okay.
the shed outside the house.
Yes.
But being younger, it looked like as if it could have been bigger. But I guess it wasn't.
Oh, it always seemed smaller.
Yeah.
Like when we
Yeah,
seen it the
it's-
first time I went,
That shed,
looks so much smaller.
that shed seemed to be quite a good size, but actually it was only, like
Yeah.
it wasn't that big.
yeah,
Because you could put a bicycle in it.
that's it.
And then the birds, and of course I put my hand up on the birds, and the bird had lice. I remember looking at my hand and went, ooh,
What is that?
wow, the little red lice. Bird lice, I'm gonna die.
And you live to tell the tale.
Yes.
That's interesting. So there used to be a porch off of the back.
The back.
Yeah.
Back.
Yeah.
And then, so where was the shed that you're talking about? Was that attached to the porch?
It was just the shed
Oh.
on the back of the house.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's on here or not. Oh, no.
No, that's the front of the house,
Yeah.
basically.
It's where the garage is, where we used to park the car.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then you have that gap, that small gap. Well, there was a catch-all shed.
Oh,
It
okay.
wasn't a shed, it was just a catch-all, and it had the supports on this side, and that's where we would climb up,
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so the porch was off of the shed.
off of the
Off of
main
the-
part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
Okay.
main part of the house, but yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. It's hard when I don't have pictures.
Well, it is,
But
yeah.
If I walked outside, I could show you
Of
more,
course.
that
Yeah.
that's where it was, but now it's just on, I keep looking at it, it's all cement, okay.
Well, that's
Where
what we
did the
were
shed
talking
go?
when I came in the one
Yeah.
time and I asked you. I said, "There's just no way that this was a hall because that's way too small." I'm going. When they must have found, like John, found the original,
The hearth?
the hearth.
That was
That
always
that
on.
has to be built onto because they said our walkway was at least a good almost 3.5 feet, 4 feet wide. So the door that you've got there now that leads to the garage to go outside, that was a wall. So
Yeah.
we walked out the back door, and that's when you and I went and took a look, and it said, "This is where the door was." So I mean, probably at one time that wasn't originally like, but I can't see them tearing down concrete to put a wall, to put a door in. I could see them taking the door out and then concreting it up.
I
do you know what I
can't
mean?
figure, I'm looking at it and I can't figure out how they did that.
Yeah.
Because when it was a
Because we
major
don't
old
know
door.
what the original blueprint of the house is. We know that that was the very first part of the house to be built. How did they get in and out? Where was their entrance? Because back in the day, you didn't have huge houses. You built onto the house to make it bigger. But your original goal is you got to have some place that's going to be, get your food ready. That's your name, that heat source. So that's why that's the first part of the house that's been built. But from there on, that's when you continue building. But the only thing I'm thinking, well, I would have loved to have been able to see it actually firsthand when that part of the house was built. Just to say, so
Where did they sleep?
in a day and age, everybody slept in one room and that would be where that heat is.
Yeah.
And then they build on.
Yeah.
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 But I always wondered that because I thought,
Well, it
there
must
should
have
be a
been
door
fast.
here.
It must have been fast because by 1802 it was established already, so it was an established building. They must have been building it as they lived here.
Oh yeah, that's what they would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have lived in a little room while they kind of built.
Yeah,
their
well,
Yeah.
they knew what this was going to be, because it was
Exactly.
going to be.
But because of our region, and it's, you know, it's cold in the winter, so that's why everybody sleeps near, like in that one room, and that's when they start building on. Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
I think that's it. And when you bring up the heat, that did make me want to ask again about the heating sources that you grew up with, because you mentioned a coal stove, and then later a wood stove, and then later an electric heater.
Yeah, space heater.
And so those space heaters, even the coal, like, so was it attached to like these fireplaces? Like, was this fireplace
That's what I mean.
exposed when you were growing up?
Exposed but not used.
Okay, so but you had the stove instead
Yeah.
in front of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I can't, the chimneys, how did Dad do it? For the life of me, I can't even picture where the chimney would be. Oh, wait a minute now. Okay, the stove was here. Chimney went up and went out. That's how that went. It did. It was.
Like one of those big black tubes that
Yeah,
kind of
yes.
attached
Yeah, and
to.
then it went to the chimney here.
Okay, so
That
it would have
had-
been in front of this fireplace.
And the same
Yes.
thing there. It would have been like what I have with the wood stove at home. It
Yeah.
goes up and then out,
Yeah.
right? So I can vaguely remember now, besides seeing it at my place, how the chimney would go from the stove up and then out and then into the main
Yeah.
chimney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't think. I kept thinking, how in the world it didn't go through the house? You know, it didn't go through the whole ceiling. It had.
Yeah,
to
because
be-
it wasn't cold when I was growing up. That was when
That's
you
what I
guys
mean.
were growing
So
up.
the wood stove had to be close to the fire here, because as I say, I used to sit there talking on the phone in that corner, like in that corner.
So you'd be cozy up to the
Oh yeah,
wood
the stove was
talking to
right
the
here,
phone.
and I was sitting there talking to Bob.
And when we talk about electric heaters, we're not talking a little box. We're talking like about 3 feet long
Yeah,
and about
yeah.
2.5 feet wide.
Okay.
Because it was your main, it was like
They
an
were space
electric,
heaters.
yeah.
There were no
I think they were
space.
called electric furnaces at one time. So that's why when you think of it, it's not a space heater. It's a really big. Because when we used to come off the pond skating in the wintertime, we would take our gloves and our hats and we would place them on top, and you could just hear everything sizzle because the snow was drizzling down. I'm thinking, oh, did we ever think there could be a fire? No, we never thought of that.
No.
We just liked the sound of that crackle. But yeah, they were like at least a good 2.5, 3 feet wide. And I mean long, and as I said, like a good almost 2 feet wide. So, and they stood this high. So they weren't tiny little, what we get nowadays, like ceramic space heaters. It's like, no, we're talking a big box.
And how
Yeah.
many of those space heaters would you have had to heat the house?
Two.
Two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one in there. We had no heat upstairs.
No, there was no. Yeah, it was chilly.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. You run downstairs.
Yes.
You put your clothes by the fire and hope for the best.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
when
Dad
like big,
yeah, Dad
warm.
Dad didn't have to get up in the mornings and stoke the fire so we could be warm when we got up.
Yeah,
That was a good thing for him. He was quite happy about that.
Now you mentioned when you first arrived here today, you mentioned in the basement that there used to be a pile of coal. So is that where the coal the coal was in the basement, then you would bring it up to the
Yeah,
stoves?
he had a container, like
Okay.
a coal.
So I think you mentioned earlier today that there was you would open up one of the basement windows,
Yeah, the fire went over.
the far window, pour the coal from
Yeah.
the window into like a.
probably a coal bin, I would say.
Yeah, it was a
I
coal
don't
bin.
know. I'm just that's my guess.
Well, no, it wasn't
Yeah,
coal.
a coal
It
bin,
was,
yeah.
Like it was wood, it was high, and then the coal would go in there and we'd play.
And it was your dad's job to stoke the.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Nobody else did that.
No one else.
Not even Bill. I don't think Bud would either because that was beneath him.
Oh, really?
Yes. But No, we had fun in the cold.
Yeah.
I'm not saying.
You don't need to. You don't need to.
No.
I do want to ask a little bit more about the fun that you would have in the area. You both mentioned growing up in a rural area. You were spending all of your time outside. Your playground was the barn and
the short hills.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were just outside all the time.
Wendy mentioned tobogganing in the short
yes.
hills. Ethel, did you do any tobogganing?
Oh gosh, yeah. That's what we did. We did it way before you.
Did you toboggan the same hill? The Scout hill. Yeah.
Yeah, that time that Martha got mad at me because she went down, like you were supposed to go down this way. Well, she went down that side. You know the one I mean? Anyway, there's a tree there, kind of a tree stump, and I bailed.
You left my mom on. That's all.
Yeah.
No wonder I love you the best.
It wasn't a pretty sight, and boy was she mad. Ooh, she hit the tree.
Yeah, it wasn't until...
I didn't do it on purpose, but I seen it coming, so I just bailed. Martha, get off. No.
I mean, in the winter, because, as I said, most of our winters, it was cold all winter long, snow all winter long. Whereas nowadays, because of the temperature difference, we used to take our skates down to the bottom of the hill, put our skates on, and we would skate the 12-mile creek. And we would go for miles and miles. You're lucky if it freezes over nowadays. And it's even smaller than what it was when we were growing up.
It's tiny.
Yeah, when we were growing up, it was like wide. And I mean, there was a part down there that we considered like the swimming hole. And it was big enough, like wide enough, deep enough that if you jumped in, you weren't going to break a leg. So it had a lot of depth to it. But
there's the cattle drinking out of the creek.
the 12-mile creek is what runs behind us, and we used to skate that, and it was really cool, especially when Aunt Marianne, like when the kids came down, and that's all we'd do. But most of our time was outside. We were just outside
skating on a pond out here, but the pond there was a lot deeper. This pond was not, and we used to swim in this pond.
Oh yeah.
The pond at the back of the house.
We
used to swim in that
We had
pond.
a little rowboat.
Yeah.
It was a good size. I mean...
But this pond was deeper. Dad used to stock it. He used to go down and catch fishies, catfish, and stock it a few times.
So the pond that used to be on the other side of the barn was deeper. Your dad would stock it with fish and you would fish it. And then also skate.
Yeah.
Oh, skate off the back. And I mean...
here was a lot easier because you had to find out if it
it was frozen.
Yeah.
But this, it always seemed to just freeze crystal clear, straight. Yeah.
It was nice.
Unless we had really cold weather while it was freezing. But, I mean, we played hockey up to crack the whip. You name it, that's what we did. So,
were you playing with siblings, or were you playing with neighborhood
siblings.
Siblings?
There was no neighbors.
Well, Gary Austin and Jeannie Austin.
with you,
yes. Yeah, they would come over and we'd be tobogganing and skating and and wandering short hills and stuff like that. Yeah.
But those were the only friends around.
Oh well, yeah, because Wileys were you see them at school, but there was no buddy. Yeah,
which is odd because I mean they just live around the corner.
Yeah, but it was around the corner to walk that far. Who needed it? But.
Yeah, but when you think of where Wiley's are and where Austin's are, well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Austin's was just right around the corner.
Yeah.
And then we had Bud and Eva were here with Wayne and Robert.
Yes.
Yeah,
but as far as neighbors?
No, Huey Smith and Rollins and stuff like that. They didn't even have
kids. No.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I had mentioned to when I came in the last time and picked up the information. I don't know why. It's kind of like, oh, here's a piece of trivia. I said about the Speck brothers. When they were little, remember Miriam Smythe?
Yeah.
The goat lady. And they made a wine. with her name, and I just thought that is so cool.
Yeah, can you tell that story again, the goat lady story?
The goat lady. She was did we not call her the White Witch?
Yeah.
Yes, because she knew, the White Witch meaning she just knew if you had a sick cat, a sick dog. I remember my mom going there, I don't know how many times, when one of our animals, like inside animal, you know, like not a cow, they would still deal with that. But if one of our cats got sick, I remember going up with my mom and we would go to see Miriam Smythe, and the house was really small, very dark. She always had goats, and she always had baby goats inside. And then I found out that she sent the goat's milk to sick kids in Toronto for kids that were lactose intolerant. And I thought, we just thought she liked goats. Well, I did. My mom must have known, but I just thought she was such an interesting person because it's like my mom would say, okay, so there's something wrong with a cat, and she goes, well, I'm going to take like witch hazel and so she was right into herbs and that. But so it's just like White Witch meaning, you know, very good person, very knowledgeable about anything that's growing around here, which is great because, I mean, half the stuff you read about, it's just like, you know, that really does work. And so with Miriam, they lived there, and the Speck brothers, well, the Speck family, had a dog. And the dog went over to her place all the time to drink the goat milk. And one day the dog didn't want to come back, so the dog stayed with Miriam. So that's why they called her the goat. Well, we called her the goat lady, but they made a wine. Yeah.
Marion Smythe.
Marion Smythe. Marion Smythe.
Yeah, she gave me goat's milk.
Yeah.
I had an ulcer.
Yeah, but she knew all that kind
Bill
of stuff.
Smythe would drop it off, you know, bring it over.
But they didn't have any children.
No.
No.
But
That's
no,
where
she
Mom
did
got her
that-
first
she
horse
did that for
with him.
2 or 3 months, I think, because I had the ulcer. It wasn't a very nice ulcer. It was a bleeding ulcer. So she said, goat milk. I
Yeah.
said, okay.
I think she thought goat's milk was the
Yeah.
answer to everything.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's
It
what I
was
mean.
okay, you know, like...
And it made you feel better, so
yeah.
that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
But with me, we didn't have neighbors with kids at all. No.
The only ones I'm thinking about is Wilson. We did have Harold Wilson.
Okay.
He had the son. God, what the heck was his name?
Wilson that lived down,
Yeah, and for heaven's
Short
sake,
Hills.
Yeah,
yeah.
they had the girl and the boy, and for the life of me, right at this moment, I know I could find it somewhere, but
You can't think of her name?
yeah, it was April, and the snow had started to melt. They lived down that road and up and into the farm,
Yes.
and the creek had flooded. And I went down with her to walk her across, and when I crossed the bridge, the water was up to my chest.
That's amazing because you would never see it that high.
No,
Never.
But it
Never.
was up to here. And I got her across, and she said, "You could be all right." I said, "Sure, I'll be fine." So I walked back again. But it was, I'll never forget that because the water was right up to my chest.
Wow, that's pretty
And-
high.
And like even walking up the hill, because of the strain of walking up the hill, with it even being cold, I wasn't cold. You know, it didn't bother me one bit. I just said, yeah, okay, you know, slop, slop, slop. But
Yeah, walking to us meant nothing. Like nowadays, it's like, how far is that? And it's like, oh my goodness. It could be the way you walk, it could be half an hour. It would take me 10. But that's what I mean. Because we were so used to it, walking that distance, and I mean, that's a distance. If you were to go down the short hills and you just keep on going till the road runs out, I think they still have it to where that one farm was.
Yeah,
it was beyond that, there was another farm.
yeah, Bragnays.
Bragnays, yes, that's right, Bragnays. Yeah, but that was just normal for us, so.
Yeah, walking
Yeah.
to school was like we'd go that way, and then we'd go through the fields, of course, roads. Smith had his cows and the horse and stuff. We'd walk through there. and stay and play with the horse for a while. You're late again. Okay.
But that's funny. We just,
Walk.
because there
You just
wasn't
walk.
a lot of homes around, we just, when family was down, that's who you played with, or, you know, I had 2 brothers, so that's who I played with. And then when we finally got into school, we knew the Custers, and they lived on top of Rockway. And that's quite a distance. And then they would start coming down, and they would toboggan with us and everything. But as far as the next door neighbor, no children around.
Okay.
No, not for us.
Not for us.
No.
So just so mostly siblings, family when they're visiting.
Yes.
You talked about the corner store that you would go to way down at Pelham Road. Were there any other businesses, or where would you
No.
go for groceries? Anything like that? Would you go into the city for groceries?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That was the only place to go.
Okay.
There was nothing. Absolutely nothing. There was the Rockway Church and
Yes.
the
Well, when you
schools,
think of
and that
it,
was it. Like we had no.
I don't know how long Club Roma has been around on Van Sickle Road, but at one time there was no homes there. It was strictly grapes. And a friend of mine, and this has got to be at least 15 years ago, he goes, I should just drive you around the area and show you some of the homes that, like, we built, the company that I work for. And I go, okay, cool. And we're driving around, and I'm looking, I'm going, you know, if you drop me off right here, I'd have no idea where Club Roma is. Because, like, there's Van Sickle Road, Club Roma, that's it.
Yeah.
All the rest was all grapery. Going through Pelham Road all the way until I'm trying to think, just past the original city dump, which would be on your right-hand side. That's when the houses just started building. Now it's just like so much, and I'm like, wow, look at all this. But yeah, so to us, like, I mean, it was country until you got right to Pelham Road, right near Grapeview.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because that. Yeah. Grapeview School.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's even moved now. They don't even have that there.
No, it's gone.
Yeah.
But there was no.
So,
and
it's
as for
like,
community, Dad wasn't really involved with.
no.
No, very much at all. Not
But what
that
would they
I
have?
know of.
Yeah, because I was going to say, what would Grandpa, would he be interested in, like?
Well, he
did
was
it-
interested in what it like how well the grapes were doing or the fruit farm. and
That's
stuff
funny. I
like
wonder
that.
if they had like a farmers get together
Co-op
or
type thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Because I think that's why he said to Bob. He said, "Don't bother. It's such a hard, like you really got to keep track. You've got, and with so much improvements, but the cost of the improvements was just
yeah, the initial cost.
stifling to some people. Like so. He said,
Big
no.
investments.
Yeah.
So, just because you mentioned your dad might have been involved with some sort of like farm associations, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, but nothing.
But what about
Nothing like a weekly,
Yeah, and
weekly
he never
get-together.
went to community. We never used the Rockway Community Center for any outlets for the farmers. I don't think there was too much. Wiley's had, they got into it, and Dad was not associated, but knew them, and they talked and stuff, but
You seem like just a happy-go-lucky kind of living off the land kind of guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
salt of the earth?
Well, yes, not somebody who has to be involved in what's going on out there or what's going on in the city. It's like, I don't really care because I live out here in the country.
Self-sustaining.
Yes, but yeah, that's the right. Self-sustaining.
So you mentioned the Rockway Community Center. So you didn't use that for anything. Do you have any memories of going there for?
Yeah, I got married.
Not married. Okay, that's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, we had our reception there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, it was interesting.
There was.
Yes,
We
it
had
was.
fun.
Dare I ask more, or maybe not?
Oh, an argument. Not between my husband and myself.
Mm.
No.
Mm.
Family.
Ooh.
And it ended up
Ooh.
Phyllis.
Oh.
They started to fight on the floor, and it's just like, I'm like, wow. Next thing you know, my uncle's going, if you're gonna fight, take it outside. So they all took it outside. And then when some of them ended up having to go to the hospital just for emerge, like, bruises and cuts and that, they're looking going, is this a Rockway wedding? And I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Okay, so
But-
Rockway weddings had reputations?
Well, I think so. But I mean, Rockway used to be quite an interesting little place because I mean, they would have the, what is it? A wild game. Like they'd have a lot of associations and stuff like that up there. But through the years, it's really gone down. The building's gone. They tore it down, I think,
Yeah,
this
that
year.
was sad because
Yeah.
we had our, we had a lot of community.
Yeah, we just
things.
had some community things. So, like, I mean, if there was anything going on, like, not a dance, but
Yeah,
stuff
there
like that.
would be some, church,
Something going on,
yeah,
like a church,
special.
outing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's gone down the tubes.
yeah, it's kind of
So-
sad.
If there were community events, they were likely held at the community
Yes.
center.
Yeah.
So you do have some memories going there, but nothing specific. Like, is there a specific festival or like a
No.
Christmas bazaar or something that you would make a tradition out of?
I don't know. I don't think we
No.
did. Like, I'm trying to think of something for Christmas and sharing and stuff, but I don't.
No, there was just never like a real. I think because of our families were so big that we didn't really associate with a lot of people. Oh, I don't mean to say that like a snob, but
you had enough people.
yeah,
in
we
your
had enough
circle.
people. We just didn't.
And
need
we just
more.
couldn't get around that well.
Yeah.
Like it was, you were, like, finally when I got my license, I was gone.
Yeah. Well, I think that
then
was
I
a
had
big
to
thing
borrow
too.
Dad's car
Yeah.
to try that one. Oh.
Okay, so tell me about the license then. So
Yeah,
you got
back
the
then,
license, you
yes.
got the car, your dad's car. Where were you going? What were you doing?
Driving all over.
No, but I know that at one time Port Dalhousie used to be a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever go there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, when I was young, when I was only a little squirt, Aunt Florence, was taken, I guess I must have been, the merry-go-round.
Yes.
They would plunk me on, I had a favorite horse, my horse. They would plunk me on that thing and leave me all day. You could not get me off of that thing.
So Port Dalhousie is
Yep.
a part of your childhood.
Yeah,
then.
mine. But no, you couldn't get me off that thing. I remember that thing. And Dad would come, you gonna come? Come on. No, mine.
Well, you know what? Really, when you think of it, the carousel is an important part of Port.
Yeah, that's what it was, man.
But they had a trolley that ran through the city that went all the way down there.
Yeah.
It's not something we use because we didn't live in the city.
But
We
you
go the
remember-
back way.
Right. But you
Yeah.
remember the streetcar, but you never took the
No,
streetcar.
I don't remember the streetcar, but I do know I worked with a girl. Oddly, her name is Kathy Jessam. I almost fell over and here. Her husband and my parents, my father, because I'm a Jessam, they're kind of like third or fourth cousins. Because when I heard her name, I'm going, get out of town, your name is Jessam. That's mine. Well, my maiden name. And then she told me about her husband. I've met Tony a couple times. And Kathy was telling me, and I'd say, I'm 66. I'd say she's got to be, close to 70. And she grew up in St. Catharines. And because she lived in the city, she says, oh no, that's when there was more of a nightlife in St. Catharines. If you lived in the city, it was a whole new ball game. You had easier transportation.
Yeah,
She's the one that told me
around.
that. She goes, oh no, there used to be a trolley that ran all the way down to Port Dalhousie and going, really? And she goes, yeah. She goes, that's what we do on a weekend. We'd take the trolley early in the morning, go all the way through St. Catharines, get down to Port Dalhousie. I'm going, wow, that's wild. I'm thinking, no, you're only a couple years older than me, and I had no idea that there was a trolley there.
Well, we never.
No, because this is where we lived and this was our lifestyle. Yeah. I mean, it's not like anybody, if we wanted to go someplace, they would take us, but really, where were we going to go?
Yeah.
Like, we had no great desire. Maybe to the movies once in a very, very blue moon, but no,
Yeah,
we
where
were
did
just
I go with
we were just
it?
outside people,
Yeah. I didn't go
like
very far
cave
with
dwellers or something. Ethel.
Yeah. I didn't go. Actually, I didn't go all that far. Once I finally got my license, and I had to beg Dad for the car, so that was useless.
But isn't the theater that's on St. Paul Street? That's the original
Yeah.
movie theater.
Yeah.
Is that where you've gone?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you would have driven downtown to see movies?
Actually, I don't think I did. I don't think, like as I say, once I got my license, I never bothered too much, and I met Bill, and then I was on motorcycles.
Yeah.
So that was a whole new ball game. That was fun. That was fun, especially when I got run or dragged underneath the motorcycle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Queenston Heights.
Oh wow.
Bill Sargent, thank you, Bill.
See, that's a distance.
He come around the corner and like this here, and he thought that it would go straight. So he hit the gas, and it went this way.
Oh.
Well, it went over, and it landed on top of me and skidded over. And my leg was bleeding quite bad, and my jeans were ripped. We went to a restaurant, and they kicked us out because we were dressed like motorcycle people.
Back in the day.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
we couldn't
had
do that.
a leather jacket on and jeans, and because we were motorcycle people, we were not allowed in the restaurant.
Wow.
He says, "I'll bleed all over your front door."
Oh my god.
But there, see, that shows you, like, what do? You get on a motorcycle and you're going to the country again. You're not going into the city. I
Well,
don't
we
think
tried the city, but
No, the
it
city
bit.
didn't like you.
It bit. No.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. Most of, like, but if you ever wanted to go to, didn't you go to dances?
Yeah, a few.
And where were they held?
We went with the Wileys. Where the heck did we go? Jordan. There was the church in Jordan. They had dances there.
Mm-hmm.
And I went with Griffins. They were from high school,
Mhm.
right? This was a high school group. Other than that, just typical wild little teenager. Bad.
So what was your relationship like with the city? Like you mentioned that a couple of times, like this is very clearly the country, the city was St. Catharines. Like, did you like St. Catharines? Did you wish you spent more time there, or you didn't care about spending time there?
That's where I met my husband.
Okay.
Let me see, I was what, 18, 19? No, I was 18. 18.
Oh, I thought you said it was 18, 19. I'm thinking, what?
No, I was
thought you were
18 because I
mentioning
had
a
Debbie
year,
and
Ethel.
No, it was 18 because I had Debbie when I was 19.
Yeah.
Because she was born in January and I didn't turn 20 until April. But I was going to business college. And he walked out. Bud was the one that he was supposed to pick me up after school. Well, he wasn't there, and we were sitting in the restaurant, and Linda and I and Bob walked in, and wow, talk about bedroom eyes. He took one look, and I looked at him.
If you had seen a picture of my uncle Bob when he was a young man, he is almost a spitting image of Sean Connery.
Oh wow.
Oh,
When
wow.
Sean Connery was young, and I went,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I goes,
Uh-huh.
Ethel, goes, I didn't realize what a good-looking man Uncle Bob was when you guys were like,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
said he looks like Sean Connery.
So what
Yeah.
restaurant was that in?
Oh God, it was Hendrick's Winery. What was their? They bought it from. Oh crap! I can't remember. But anyway, I got up to walk out because he kept looking at me and I kept looking at him. And when I got up to walk out, Linda was walking behind me, and he come along behind me, and she went, "You know he's undressing you with his eyes."
That was the saying back then. Yeah, that's a saying. Oh yeah.
And he says, "Need a ride home?" And I said, "Okay." And on the way, I said to him, I says, "Do you like horses?" He said, "You're going to take him or leave him." That poor guy got stuck with him. Did
Oh,
he
yeah.
ever? He really got stuck with them.
Do you like horses? Yeah.
Do you like horses?
But I mean, that's what I mean. Like, you went to places. That's how you met Uncle Bob.
Yeah. But,
It wasn't all life on the farm.
oh gosh, no.
Yeah.
We were kind of, some of it you don't want to remember.
No, but you know how some people in the 50s, they hung around like soda joints and stuff like that. I mean, I know St. Catherine's had Diana's Sweets. I don't know if that was... I think Diana's Sweets would have been around when you were around.
I think that might have been it, or else it was...
On St. Paul Street.
Oh, yeah, it was on
the
St. Paul
old-fashioned
Street.
like
Yeah,
soda parlor.
Yeah, it was on St. Paul Street,
Yeah.
of course.
Well, that may be it
It
though.
was one of them, Diana Sweet, but for the life of me. But it's in the past.
But there was no particular, like every Friday night.
No,
When you got to
no.
a certain age, it's like, oh, we're gonna go here.
No, no.
Check
It
with
was
the
just
guys.
after school, I would have to go to the restaurant, wait for my brother to show up.
Yes, because there was
'Cause
no
he was-
city.
Yeah, we were in
No
the city, he
driving.
had to drive me
Yeah.
back home, so. But,
City driving, I meant there was no city transportation for you to get back home.
no,
So you're basically relying on somebody to come and
Yeah.
get you,
yeah.
which would be Uncle Bud. Yeah.
No, it was Bob.
So Bob got it.
Bob.
So that's how you met Bob.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
were 18. Did you get married right away?
Nope. We lived together. I had Debbie in 1962, and I think she was around 4 years old when we married. Because the unfortunate part about that, talking about tragedy in the life, I had been married before.
Oh, okay.
I was married very, very young, and my dad thought that I was pregnant,
Oh, okay.
and I was not pregnant.
Okay.
And I got married to Cosby, and I had a son, and he died 6 months, 10 days later after he was born. And so that part of my life was just, it's a black hole.
Yeah.
And
Victor
then-
was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then later on, not much longer after that, we were thinking about going to business college. So I went to business college. I went to business college in Toronto at first, but I was young and I was scared. So I said, Dad, I gotta come home. I said, I can't handle this because I was all by myself, and I was in a trauma type area of my life. And Dad said, okay, so I come home and then got into St. Catherine's Business College.
Well, Toronto, even though at that time it wasn't as big, it would have been
I
a
was
lot
right
more
by
done
the,
for
I was right by the General Hospital, or the Toronto General Hospital.
Yeah.
I was in that area.
But still, it would be
And living in
so
a
different.
one-room apartment, and I mean, I was, 16, 17? No.
Yeah.
Just, no,
No.
I just couldn't. Then I was out from the farm.
Well,
Yeah.
that's it. You go
Yeah.
from farm life to Toronto City Life. It's terrifying.
Yeah, I was a farm girl, and then this
Yeah.
was just absolutely beyond me.
And I feel
Way
like you were
beyond.
You were going through so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but and then when Bob and I got together, of course I got pregnant.
And Debbie came along.
Yeah. Don't say anything. But he was like an octopus with hands. But
As
wow.
I said, Ethel, you don't have to say anything you don't want to say.
I have that memory. Wow. But anyway, so I was married, and then he asked me. I didn't tell him. And I was going to have the child, and I had it all arranged that I was going to be going to Toronto to take care of a home for a dentist, and Bob found out about it. Well, you're not going anywhere with my child. Okay. Will you marry me? I can't marry you. I'm still married. Oh my goodness. As I say, talk about after I get hit by the truck, after that, it just
went downhill.
Could it get any worse? Could it get?
No, that's not true, Ethel.
I couldn't believe that it could get that much worse. But then I met Bob and everything changed around. Then I had Debbie, and the only part about that too, which was really ticked me, was when I went to get my divorce. It was in front of a judge, Catholic. Oh yeah, divorce, And I said, I have a child by Bob, and we're living together for 4 or 5 years now. So, but that was, and then my dad had to get up in front of the judge and say, yeah, my daughter's been living with him for 4 years. Talk about humiliating.
What a difference.
Talk about humiliating,
but
and
it's so
especially for
different.
Dad, like my father had to get up and swear that his daughter was a, common law, whatever. And now, who cares?
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I mean.
I was what, 15, 16, 20 years before my time.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
if
it
this
is true.
happened now, it's a big thing, it's what
Time
happens.
changes so
Drastically.
Yeah.
Drastically.
The way people think. Yeah. It's so you were just a little floozy, Ethel.
Not really, because it only was two.
Oh, okay.
That'll count.
No, but that's what I mean. When you think of it, like, because there was no neighbor here, there was no neighbor there. Whatever we did, and that's why I wanted to know, Ethel, was there, like, besides school, that's when you had to stay in St. Catharines until somebody got you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bob had picked that day, poor guy.
No, because I mean, that had to be in the early 50s?
That'd be the
Mid-50s, yeah.
Late 50s, because
I mean, by that time, people would be going, well, Saturday night we're going to this movie, or Saturday night we're going to go hang out together. But because we lived out here, we just didn't do that.
No.
And it didn't bother us, I don't think. It wasn't like, ooh, we're really missing something.
I didn't miss anything.
No.
Not at that time, it didn't.
No.
And you neither, Wendy, you didn't feel like what was your relationship with St. Catharines?
Oh, I like St. Catharines, but it was, St. Catharines.
It was there, and you
It
were
was
here.
there, yeah. So when we went to high school, of course we went into West Park, so now you're going into the city, and it was totally different, yeah.
Right.
It was just like, wow, you guys do all this, and I'm going, you've been doing what since you've been grade 5? I'm like, felt like I belonged in a different century. And it's not, no, it did, because I mean, we went out to country school, then high school, it's in the city.
Yeah.
Even still, like you say, the outskirts of St. Catharines, well, we consider that still the outskirts of St. Catharines because there wasn't a lot of building in that area, build-up of homes in that area. So, yeah. So, I mean, it was like totally different. We're going to go here on Saturday. Yep, climb in there like, yeah. So, but I mean, it's not something that I said, oh man, I wish, we lived here. No.
I never
Always,
wished I wanted
no.
to live anyplace
Always
else.
loved living out here in the country. Yeah. I would never changed any of it. No.
No. I changed that part of my life, but definitely.
Well,
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
go through all that,
it
yeah.
was, it was a trauma.
Absolutely,
And,
it was.
But you survived.
Yeah.
You're
Well, when I
surviving.
had Vic, like I was living at home, right? Poor Aunt Florence got stuck with that too,
That's what I mean. She was a saint.
Yeah.
She was.
Her and Dad took care of me,
Amazing.
Yeah.
But
Amazing.
No,
Didn't kick you out or anything, so
No.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that's not
Yeah, I
easy.
was in that bedroom and,
yeah.
that's our bedroom. That's the bedroom I stayed in. But, oh well.
Thank you.
But as a community or anything like that, we never, like, and as I say with Dad, I know he kept close with Wiley's and, people that were in the agricultural, but nothing, no meetings, shall we say. I mean, if he did go to a meeting, it was somewhere in St. Catharines. I don't know where the heck he got to. But
Now, what about any holiday celebrations, traditions? Was there anything like that around this area, or did you have any specific traditions in the house when it came to the holidays?
And Florence cooked
yeah.
and baked.
Yeah.
When we were growing up, twice a year, and my grandfather was not a person to travel. He was not a happy traveler.
No.
Like, he never wanted to travel. I think once, and I was not really young, but old enough, they finally dragged him someplace up north, and he almost drowned. Well, I don't go over there again. So he was my grandfather was a real homebody.
Well, he went to Florida.
Yeah, but he didn't want to travel.
I know he didn't.
Yeah, he was not a big traveling kind of guy.
Yeah.
But he was just family home.
Yeah.
But I remember twice a year, important times, my Aunt Florence, and sometimes at the beginning my grandfather would come as well. We would get in the car and we would go look at all the Christmas lights in the city.
Not Niagara Falls.
No, that's too long of a drive.
Yeah.
For Aunt Florence. So that was one, and it's almost like a tradition. I mean, it had to be more than like 2 or 3 times. But in the fall, she always loved to go for a drive out in the country to see all the changing colors of the leaves. But Christmas, she loved to go into the city and just see how the houses were decorated and that. But basically, if we were having family, it would be held here, and it would be like the big, church.
Yeah, be here.
Yeah,
at home.
yeah.
Yeah.
But because we lived out in the country, it's not like, do you decorate a lot? No. I don't even think we carved pumpkins because, who's going to see it? That was always my idea. Who's going to see it? Nobody.
Yeah, did you trick or treat or no?
We trick-or-treated. We were taken into the city because we had relatives in St. Catharines. But we always came over here because Aunt Florence would always make up, at that time you weren't afraid somebody's going to stick a pin in your food, but she would make
Taffy apples.
taffy apples were unbelievable.
Apples.
She'd always make taffy apples, candy corn balls. There was 2 or 3 other candies that were like Rice Krispie treats, but she would always make up gift bags for Halloween. And she knew that, like, my 2 brothers and myself, we would be here. Well, we'd walk over because we just live around the corner, but still the trick-or-treater thing. And we would make sure that she got to see what we looked like. Our friends, the Custers, from way up on Rockway, they would pop by. She knew how many to make because that's as many as you're going to get. Because no neighbors. So after we did all that, then we went into Farinacci's and we went trick-or-treating door to door with my cousins because they lived in the city. What about you? You did nothing for Halloween, did you?
I came here.
You lived here.
Yeah.
But did you guys ever have like a Halloween party? Or no?
Well, don't forget, at that time when I was 20, Bob and I were living in the city.
Yeah. But when you were younger, what did you do for Halloween?
Yeah,
Nothing?
Florence made stuff, like as you say, she made up stuff.
Yeah.
But Dad he loved Labor Day. Firecrackers. He was a firecracker nut.
I know.
He
I
was a
remember that.
firecracker nut.
That's where Fred got it from.
Yeah. Labor Day firecrackers.
Yeah, and it always make him smile.
Yeah.
That always seemed to be very happy.
Firecrackers.
It's funny you say that because that just brings back a memory, and I'm like, I remember that. I'm thinking, why does Grandpa like firecrackers? Fred was the same, so I think he took after him that way.
Yeah, and they were pretty good with birthdays. Like Aunt learned to make the birthday cake. And
Oh,
she'd
yes.
put money in it.
Oh, yes.
And she'd put nickels, and then for the birthday person, she'd have a 25-cent piece.
Yes.
And it would be in a special spot.
Yeah, it would always be a corner, and
Yeah.
it would be wrapped in foil.
Yeah.
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 That was, there's a name to that cake, too. But the birthday person was the only one that ever got money.
Oh, she put nickels in.
But her thing was, because Fred and myself were born a year apart to the day, so there was a birthday. Now along comes Donnie, and so that's a year for Fred and I, and then my younger brother Donnie is just a year plus, so he's born in February. And my aunt never wanted my brother Donnie to feel out of place because here there's a birthday party for Fred and I, but too bad, so sad for you. But she always made sure Donnie had something. Because she said, well, I don't want him to be left out because it's your birthdays, even though we're not twins, but it's your birthday. And there's Donnie.
Look good on him.
No, that was me. So, yeah, so she always made sure that, but Fred and I would always get the corner pieces, which held the most money. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, I know that is actually a tradition. Somebody talked to me about that one time, and I went, oh, I thought we were the only ones that did it. She said,
No, she got it.
I think at one time it was very common to do that.
Well, there was no presents and stuff like that given out that much anyway.
No.
So.
But always burnt the candles. Donnie, I remember, it was the first time they ever brought those candles out that you blow and they don't blow out. You blow them and they relight again. Oh, yeah. Try to get it again. Just will knock the poor kid over. But yeah, influence was really good that way. So
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like birthday traditions, birthday
yeah,
celebrations.
Christmas was the same. I mean, but we did have a tree in the house at Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Where was the
definitely.
tree? Where was the tree? In the corner of your living
Yeah,
room.
right
Yeah.
there.
Right in
there.
between
Right in the
two
corner.
windows.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. That's where she sat.
And I think the one I have a picture of Fred, but I think I gave it to Jess when the first year he was born. He's sitting in between my dad's leg, and I think the tree is right in the middle. But
Yeah.
most of the time it was here.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's mostly in the corner.
So I mean, like that kind of decoration with holly and greenery and stuff like that. We did do that, but not lighting or anything like that.
No.
And as I said,
No,
yes,
no.
around the house. And at that time, because most people still use the mail, it would be Christmas cards, and then you would run a string from one corner to the next, like a long line, and you would fold over, and that's where all your Christmas cards went to.
Ah.
Yeah.
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 But
Remember
no,
that?
you can't do that with a computer.
No, you can't.
Not with
A
those
little-
computer messages.
yeah.
eh?
No.
It's a little difficult.
So, these are things that no longer, people don't do it anymore because, no, number one, a lot of people don't send Christmas cards. But yeah, so that was kind of like an old tradition. So yeah.
And would that postcard line be in this room?
Yes,
Okay.
in this room.
Oh, maybe that's something that we can recreate here.
Yeah, it was
Christmas.
really kind of interesting. I mean, it's just, like, this is how your Christmas cards were displayed. And it's just a string
Yeah,
with them folded over, and
that's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just looking at time, and I think it might be good to start wrapping up. It's
Sure.
almost 2 p.m.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, but this has been so wonderful to just hear all of your memories and to really make your time here really come to life.
Well, it makes the house come alive, actually.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, like as you say, the memories, I don't remember like community. Like if you want to know about what the community did, I I don't remember.
Most of it was farm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was all farm, and I was not involved, so I had no idea what my dad, if he went out to visit with Wiley's or
Yeah.
Roland or anybody.
Well, that
like
is a little
that.
harder because maybe
Yeah,
it's like,
I don't know. I know he did, but
but he
you know,
didn't make it a regular basis, like
Yeah.
once a week.
Yeah.
Oh, we're all meeting on Wednesday. Okay.
No,
You know, nothing like
they never
that.
had
No.
they didn't have a co-op like that, per
Yeah.
se, you know.
Now, when you were growing up here, but to the both of you, were you aware of the history of the house? The fact that this was the Brown family that built the house?
I did not know it was
No.
a Brown family, but we did definitely know about because we kind of joked about it being opened in 1802 as a tavern. I said, "Oh boy, they
Yeah.
did then too."
Yeah. So we just knew we knew it was an old home.
Oh,
We
yeah.
just didn't really know the history,
Okay.
but
Not who owned it before
not
the
who
Browns.
owned it
that
or
was
when
a
it was
surprise.
established.
You know,
Um,
I knew when it was established. It was established in 1802.
Pardon me?
It was established in 1802. We
And who
knew
told you
that.
Who told you that?
Dad.
Oh, see, so he knew,
Yeah.
but he didn't really talk about the.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
But you know.
Why would that come up as? So, Dad, how old's the house? Is that how you asked him?
No,
Well, would you ask him? Do you know how old the house is?
probably on
Probably.
some lines.
Yeah.
Just in conversation.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
okay.
You know, right now, you ask me, how would I know?
Yeah.
It was something that was at one time discussed.
Yeah.
So
but-
just, again, a story that was told.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just you know, and then he had. I gave it to Conkle, Ray Conkle. It's a pamphlet. It was a small book, and it's about Pelham Road, Brockway, and how they were established, and pictures of them. You know, like a dirt road going up here and stuff. But I gave it to Conkle.
Oh,
which
that's
I-
too bad.
And I know, like when I was talking to Dad about it, that's probably where we, you know, decided, okay, this, because it was supposed to have been the railroad that was supposed to come through, but then you had Brockway to go through, so then they put it down below, right? But there was an iron trestle out, or you know, somewhere out there. There's small things like that, and then
Yeah.
with the military being here, I had
Yeah, see, I always thought that was very fascinating when
Yeah,
I was
well,
growing up. I
yeah,
thought,
well-
oh, that's so cool.
yeah.
So
well,
what
I
did you
had
know
a
about that?
I had a pet cannonball.
A
It was my-
cannonball.
Yeah, it was from the when they were doing their thing. That was my pet cannonball.
Your pet cannonball.
Where did you find the pet cannonball?
So it's out there.
But that's where the pond was, or in front of the
Well,
pond?
in that area, they did the stuff out on the short hills, but Dad gave it away.
Your cannonball.
Yes,
Oh.
he gave it to
Fred had arrowheads.
Yeah, he gave it to Lionel. Lionel lived in West Virginia
Why would you give it to him? And who
because
is he?
he's a cousin.
Oh, okay.
Crap. But he gave my cannonball away.
I'm really sorry. That
I
was your
know.
pet.
I know. It was my cannonball.
Oh.
I was really
And people laugh
And
when they
he-
come up with a pet rock.
yeah, and he's the guy that eats donuts, like the donuts with the white with ketchup.
Oh, that's a bizarre
I'll never
person.
forget that guy. Oh, ketchup on it. Oh,
That's odd.
yeah, that was Lionel.
That's upsetting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he had the twang. You know, like,
Wow, was he American last?
oh yeah, he was
No.
American.
No, I remember Fred finding arrowheads.
Yeah, Dad used to find a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Wow, issues of arrowheads.
But I always found it because I knew it was an old house. Didn't know who originally built it or anything. I just found it very interesting. So when I started hearing stories about, and I had even said about Uncle Bud, and I had no idea about that. And I said, I don't know why, but even as a kid, I have dreamt that somebody found money in a tree. I goes, that is just so weird. And then I find out that Bud found money in a tree here. I'm like, what?
Money, so it was money in a tree?
Yeah, somebody had taken money and wrapped it up and put it inside of a tree. And as the tree grew up, it grew inside the tree. Well, my Uncle Bud had to chop the tree down, and he found this bag of money. I'm like, seriously? I dreamt of that. I'm going, that is just really weird. Yeah.
That's very
So there's a lot of
interesting.
weird things that I've been told about the house, and I thought, I've dreamt about that. I said, that is so bizarre. Yeah.
That's
That, but the money in the tree, that was one that was just
I
like,
never heard about that one.
oh yeah, actually, Aunt Mary Ann was the one that told me about it. I'm going, seriously? She goes, yeah, out here by the side. I'm going, no. I'm going, that is weird. She's going, yeah. She goes, Bud, and I said, well, what happened to the money? She goes, Bud kept it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going, oh. And because there's, like, as I said, Mary Ann and Bud, there's at least an 8-year gap. So you're looking at Bud being a teenager when Mary Ann is still, young. Yeah.
So it was when it was around a teenager when
A
that
teenager,
happened?
yeah, like, early. And I guess they were clearing some of the land and that, and he cleared a tree over here near the house, and there was a tree that, because I guess it had a hole in the tree, and
Obviously.
the money got packed in the tree, and the tree just kept growing and growing. Well, the guy never came back for the money, so it just kind of like grew over it.
That's so interesting.
So when he chopped it,
Yeah.
that's where he found it, and I'm like, that is so wild.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. I'm going, but for me to dream of it,
I
Yeah.
never
to find
heard
out
of that
about
one.
it, that's bizarre. Yeah. So yeah,
Anywho, well, I'll leave this with you.
Are there any other final stories or something else you'd like to end off on before we wrap up?
can you think of anything else? No, I'm just happy that somebody has the house and they're bringing it back to what it originally is, and all the interesting stories that come out of it. Like as you guys are going from one level to another, and it's like, well, you know what? You really want to know, how did those people live in here? Like the Chewels, I think that would be kind of. It's too bad that you couldn't find those people or relatives of theirs, but because of that time they were here.
I'd like to know what they did
Yeah,
as
well,
farming,
yeah.
as farming, because I would, like with the orchards and that, they were established by the time I was, but were they established, did Dad, I know Dad
Start
planted
them,
it,
or
but-
yeah. Well, I'm sure there's certain ones.
Yeah,
I know he did the walnut trees.
Yeah, and I know Grandpa had cattle, but other than that, I don't know how.
We've always thought that they might have been in more of a cattle business too with the dairy. Thinking
Yeah.
they had a separate spot specifically for
Oh yeah,
milking cream
Yeah.
and making cheese and butter. But that's again just our kind of
Take on it.
our
Yeah.
educated guesses based on the evidence that we
Yeah.
have. But we don't know much about the Chalus, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's too
seeing how
bad.
the barn was built out there and all that was just level, like it was. So they had to have a cattle, or even that fruit. That it was just something that carried on. You know.
Well, did you know when you looked out there? Did you notice that hill? There was never a hill there.
I know it's a sewer.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It's all sewer.
And I cannot figure out. I'm going down Quarry Road, and the guy they dug the new sewers that they're doing now. They're by hydro, and I'm thinking, ooh, that could be scary. I don't know what But anyway, they're at the humps. And
So that's what that is?
yeah,
Oh.
it's a sewer for the house.
Oh.
That's the new sewers,
Oh.
and they're done they flush by hydro. So if
Really?
you have a hydro outlet or outbreak, whatever, blackout,
You run
don't
to the woods.
flush.
You run to the woods.
Don't flush.
You run to the woods.
Because that's what Glennis's son does. He digs. He came here.
He does. Oh, okay.
He came here. He was here.
Oh.
He did work here?
He was contacted for a sewer,
Oh.
or the sewer and
Their sister? Was it that?
cistern too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cistern, and
Okay.
because that's what he does.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, because he said that he was contacted.
Yeah.
But he never heard anything more. And whatever's going on goes on, you know.
Yeah.
So.
No, I just find it very interesting. I'm just happy that the house, and I think that's one of the reasons why, like with Ethel and her family, they made the decision to sell the house to John, even though somebody had put a bigger offer in, because they knew that John wanted to restore it. He wanted to keep the house, whereas because of where we are, people would want to rip it down, which is really sad. And it's like, oh, don't rip that down. So I think that was one of the main reasons why they sold to, John Joking.
Oh yeah, that was the main
Yeah.
reason. That was Jean
Because
wanted to sell it to somebody else. And I
Yeah,
said, no.
my Aunt Jean wanted to sell the house. Yeah, because when people start bidding on the house, but we knew that what John wanted to do with it is keep it, restore it, bring it back, do the history. And I think that was number one thing that made most of the family very happy, because we just didn't want to see the house torn down.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So I'm very fascinated with
But that was
everything
the
you guys
first
are doing.
time I knew. Like the first time I knew it was a Browns, I couldn't. Browns? Oh, you should have heard Jean.
And I tried,
We were in that house for 7 years.
and I told my Aunt Jean, I said, they take the last person who has owned it and the original owners. It's very hard for her to understand it. Oh, I don't think that's right. You were in there for over 70 some odd. Okay.
I mean, you were the longest inhabitants.
Yeah.
Of it.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah,
it goes
but-
that way anyway.
But
I mean,
we didn't establish it.
No.
And the Browns did.
And we did
And
not
they
sell
did,
it.
and
We were
yeah.
not the last
And
sellers of the
they're
house.
doing what they're doing now, which is
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I
thank
think
you.
all the families like that, yeah.
And I mean, what you've been able to share with us today is so integral to our understanding of the house. So thank you.
Well,
both.
you know what? If we ever do come out with pictures of more of
Please
the
do.
barn and that, we'll bring it out,
Yes.
because that way it'll give you a better idea.
Yeah.
Because we know there was more buildings up there, and stone buildings. Yeah.
Well, I know Mary Ann's got albums in Youngstown, Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
But I had gone through quite a few of them, and I don't remember seeing anything with the farm
Yeah.
that I know of, and I kind of
But if we do,
yeah,
I'm
kind
just
of
saying
asked
if we
her
do.
because she's
Yeah.
got like she was the picture taker.
Yeah. She's a photographer. She had a little dark room and everything.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how much she
sad.
got into photography. That's why all the farmhouse pictures, well, except for the really old ones,
Of course.
she's the one that took the pictures.
Of course.
And Jean and Marianne were basically the keepers of the pictures.
Okay.
Most of the pictures I had of the farm were pictures of horses and dogs and
Well,
cats.
that's mine.
And I went, well, I don't think
All
I don't think they need pictures of horses and cats and dogs.
Yeah, but the horses are standing in front of the barn.
Well, if there was a building, it would be different, but it wasn't
Exactly.
buildings.
Well,
It
yeah,
was just animals.
and galloping, and there's your shed, but that was the shed for the horses. That one there.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
the picture
that's
of Mary
perfect.
Ann standing on Felmlow with Dad's name.
Well, thank you both.
Oh, well, thank you
I'm
for.
sure we didn't learn too much because, as I say, I have no
Well, I
idea.
hope you find some information. And this is what life was going on at this stage to that stage. And yes, it was very boring for those people.